Chapter 12:24. This is a little thing this young master is giving you, it's free of silver. If the princess uses it well, it will give you a large surprise. After saying this, his red robe fluttered and his figure flashed, disappearing from Zhao Rong Princess' eyes without a trace. Zhao Rong Princess wanted to ask, "What is this?" But before she could say anything, the red-clothed young master's figure had already disappeared. She looked in the direction he left in a daze. After a while, she slowly turned her eyes. If it wasn't for the blood on the ground not drying yet, she would have thought that everything that had just happened was a dream. Zhao Rong Princess stared at the paper bag in her hand for a while before finally carefully opening it. Layer after layer, the outermost layer of paper was filled with small words. She picked it up to take a look and her eyes instantly flashed with wild joy. The innermost part of the paper bag was a dark green powder. She carefully rewrapped the powder and hid it away like it was a treasure. Asterisk at this time, Qianning did not know what Zhao Rong Princess was doing behind her back. She did not know that Zhao Rong Princess' hatred towards her had reached a point where she wanted her dead. Zhao Rong Region Princess hated her to the bone, but she had long forgotten about Zhao Rong Region Princess, because there were more important things for her to pay attention to. Early in the morning, Qianning received news from Dr. Zhang's palace from Zhui Feng. Gu Qingze wanted to see her for an important matter. Her first reaction was, could it be that something had happened to Xiao Bai's condition? This thought filled her with worry. Did something happen to Xiao Bai? She immediately asked. Zhui Feng was stunned for a bit before shaking his head and saying, His Highness King Jing'an has been sleeping the entire time and did not wake up even when this subordinate left. Hearing that Chu Xiaobai was fine, Qianning let out a sigh of relief and her heart that was in her throat fell down. Then what urgent matter does my master have with me? Zhui Feng shook his head again. This subordinate does not know, but... He hesitantly looked at Qianning, wanting to say something but hesitating. But what? Quickly say it. Qianning urged him as she glared at Zhui Feng. This Zhui Feng that was like a block of wood could not tell what was important. Zhui Feng stuttered as he said, His Highness King Jing'an is fine, but this subordinate feels that something is wrong with the ancient divine doctor. What's wrong with my master? Qianning knit her brows. The Empress will know when she sees the ancient divine doctor. This subordinate is stupid and does not know how to express himself. Zhui Feng scratched his head and revealed an apologetic expression. Qianning's relaxed heart once again jumped up. For Zhui Feng to feel strange, there was something wrong. She did not ask a single word. After quickly washing up, she immediately went with Zhui Feng to Dr. Zhang's palace. Mo Chuan had gone to court early in the morning, so he was not in the palace. Qianning did not have Zhui Feng report to Mo Chuan. Before the situation was clear, she did not want to disturb Mo Chuan, otherwise he would be startled. After arriving at Dr. Zhang's palace, Qin King Jing'an appeared. In the courtyard, the first person she saw was Gu Qingze. However, the Gu Qingze in front of her gave her a huge fright. If he hadn't been sitting in that iconic chair, she would have suspected that she had recognized the wrong person. She stopped and stared at the guy in front of her. He had sunken eyes, a messy beard, messy hair and bloodshot eyes. His clothes were wrinkled as if he had just been fished out of a pickle jar. Chapter 12:25. Master, is that you? Qianning looked at him in a daze for a while before calling out in a probing voice. Gu Qingze was staring at the pile of papers in his hand, but when he heard Qianning's voice, he suddenly looked up. His eyes lit up as he looked at Qianning, revealing an excited expression like a child's. Little girl Qin, you're finally here. Quickly come and take a look. He raised the paper-like thing in his hand and waved at Qianning. Qianning's heart was filled with doubt. It had only been a night, but Gu Qingze seemed like a completely different person. No wonder Zhui Feng said it was hard to describe. She walked beside Gu Qingze, but before she could say anything, Gu Qingze suddenly rolled his eyes and coldly said, I want to talk to my disciple. All unrelated people can leave. Hearing this, the servants who were in charge of cleaning the courtyard and the imperial physicians who wanted to ask him to be their teacher all shrank their necks and left without a trace. They all knew that Gu Qingze had a strange temper. When Qianning wasn't here, he always had a blank face, not talking to anyone, and no one dared to talk to him. Also, everyone had seen him order Dr. Zhang, who was old enough to be his grandfather, around like he was ordering his grandson. Everyone felt it was unfair for Dr. Zhang, but Dr. Zhang had a happy look on his face. It was like being able to run errands for Gu Qingze was an honor for him. When everyone in the courtyard left, Gu Qingze rolled his eyes and stared at Zhui Feng. Everyone else has left, why haven't you left? Zhui Feng couldn't help being stunned. He looked at Qianning and said in a deep voice, This subordinate is under the Emperor's orders to protect the Empress. Without the Emperor's orders, this subordinate cannot leave his post. When he escorted Qin Ning from the royal palace to Dr. Zhang's palace, he always felt like there was someone watching them. But when he focused his mind to search, that strange feeling disappeared. What kind of person was Zhui Feng? He was an elite of the hidden guards, an elite of elites. He had followed Mo Chuan for many years and had experienced countless assassinations, so the danger was incalculable. This sense of danger from experiencing life and death danger was already embedded in his bones. As long as there was a bit of danger around him, he couldn't help the hairs on his back standing up. There was no exception. And this time, his sense of danger was stronger than any other time. There was someone that wanted to harm the Empress. Alarm bells rang in his heart. So on the road, he had been on guard, not daring to let his guard down at all. Even when he arrived at Dr. Zhang's palace, that sense of danger still did not disappear. Now that he heard Gu Qingze ask him to leave, he hesitated for a bit. He would rather anger Gu Qingze than leave Qin Ning's side. Bullsh*t. Bullsh*t. Gu Qingze was filled with rage and he began cursing. She is my disciple. As long as I am here, no one can hurt her. Do you think that I, Gu Qingze, practiced my engineering techniques for nothing? Do you think that I, Gu Qingze, am inferior to you? Fong ning 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 fong you. Ning 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 ning. Zhui Feng pretended like he did not hear it and stood there like a bamboo stick, not moving at all. Qin Ning knew that Gu Qingze wanted to tell her something very important. Since he didn't want Zhui Feng to know, he must have his own reasons. Chapter 12:26. Zhui Feng bowed to her and said, Empress, it's not that this subordinate is disobeying orders, but this subordinate feels. He wanted to report the strange feeling he had on the way here to Qin Ning, but the hairs on his back suddenly stood up. He instinctively felt danger, and the spearhead of this danger was not Qin Ning, but rather himself. In his shock, he didn't have time to dodge and immediately rolled on the ground. He only felt an abnormally cold thing fly past the tip of his nose. It was only an inch away from the tip of his nose. It was a close shave. It was a soundless black rope, without the slightest fluctuation or warning. If his reaction was even a little slower, his face would definitely be heavily whipped. Before he could get up from the ground, there were two more black chains coming at him from the front and back. One was straight like a judge's pen, aiming at the acupuncture point on his chest, and the other was soft as if it was nothing as it wrapped around his waist. This time he was in a very difficult situation. In this critical situation he had an idea. With one palm he shook off the black rope in front of his chest, and with the other hand he pulled out the black rope that was wrapped around his waist. He let out a breath and his body rose high into the air. His body was in the air, finally dodging the black chain's attacks. He looked down with wide eyes, wanting to see which expert had come to trouble him. Who would have thought that other than Qin Ning and Gu Qingze, there was no one else in the yard? The three black chains that had attacked him had also disappeared without a trace. Where are they? Zhui Feng was shocked, almost not daring to believe his eyes. Even if it was a top expert, they could not escape his sight in an instant. He fell down from the air and couldn't help scratching the back of his head as he looked at Qin Ning. Empress, where did the enemy go? Enemy? What enemy? Qin Ning blinked. Of course she knew that the black chains attacking Zhui Feng were from Gu Qingze activating the mechanism in the chair, but it was too fast and she could not clearly see what had happened. There were clearly three black chains attacking this subordinate. How could they suddenly disappear? Zhui Feng looked around and found nothing, so he returned to Qin Ning's side. Empress, are you all right? Qin Ning shook her head and said, I'm fine. Zhui Feng's heart became even more vigilant as he said, Empress, there is an enemy nearby. This subordinate will send you back to the palace. There are many experts in the palace, they will definitely be able to protect you. Gu Qingze sneered, you finally admit that you're useless? Zhui Feng was very respectful to him, not daring to offend him. He respectfully replied, there is always someone better out there. There are many experts better than me in this world, so Zhui Feng has never dared to be arrogant. Gu Qingze coldly looked at him. Humph, at least you still have a bit of self-awareness. I was just testing you a moment ago, and you almost couldn't even dodge my hidden weapons. What right do you have to shamelessly boast that you can protect the Shin girl? What? Wind-chasing Wolf's eyes widened all of a sudden. He looked at Gu Qingze in disbelief. Dr. Gu, did you say that the black chain was activated by you? Is there an enemy? Not bad. Gu Qingze proudly raised his chin. Wind-chasing Wolf was speechless. His face was burning and he lowered his head in shame. Chapter 12:27. In terms of age, the two of them weren't that different, but compared to him, why was the difference this big? Jue Feng admires the godly Dr. Gu's mechanical skills, but I didn't mean to eavesdrop on your discussion with the Empress. It's just that I felt danger on the way here, like there was someone hiding in the dark wanting to harm the Empress. Godly Dr. Gu, I am a secret guard, so protecting the Empress is my responsibility. Please believe me, I'm not making groundless accusations. Every time I encounter danger, I will have a premonition. In these 10 years, I have never made a single mistake. Jue Feng calmed himself down and said with a sincere expression. Gu Qingze scoffed at his words, but when he heard Jue Feng mention his identity as a secret guard, his heart couldn't help moving. He knew that there were experts like Jue Feng in the Jianghu, so he would always have a sense of danger. Just like his sneak attack just now, there was no warning at all, but Jue Feng was still able to dodge it. Could there really be someone who wanted to harm the Qin girl? On what you say makes sense. Jue Feng, you can stay on the side, but you can't say a single word about what I said to the Qin girl. Gu Qingze coldly said. Yes, many thanks to the godly Dr. Gu. Jue Feng was filled with joy. He thought, how could he have the courage to tell the godly Dr. Gu's words to others, especially after seeing his ability to appear and disappear like a ghost? Gu Qingze thought about it, but he was still a bit worried. His fingers gently moved the armrest of the chair. The shape of his chair was also very special. The armrests on both sides were wide and wide, looking like two storage boxes. He saw the armrest on the right side open, slowly lifting up a small wooden box. Gu Qingze opened the wooden box, revealing a golden yellow pill the size of an egg. As soon as the box was opened, Qin Ning and Jue Feng could smell a strange fragrance. Qin girl, eat this. Gu Qingze gave the wooden box to Qin Ning with a serious expression. Yes, master. Qin Ning reached out to take it. She knew that Gu Qingze would not harm her, so she ate the pill without any hesitation. Once the pill entered her mouth, she felt that it was fragrant and sweet, making her a bit reluctant to swallow it. After eating it, she felt the fragrance in her mouth and even her breath was filled with a sweet smell. Master, what kind of pill is this? It tastes so good, can you give me another one? She wanted to continue. She thought that Xiaoru would definitely like this kind of fragrant and sweet thing. If she could ask her master for one, she would be very happy. Another one? You make it sound so easy. Do you think these are jelly beans? You can have a lot of them? I'm telling you, this is the case. I collected 49 types of stamens and dewdrops from 49 types of flowers, as well as 49 types of venom from 49 types of poisonous insects, and 49 types of rare medicinal herbs to refine this pill. There is only one pill in the world, and now that you have eaten it, there is no more of it. Gu Qingze's face turned serious as he angrily reprimanded Qin Ning. When he thought of how hard it was for him to refine the spirit pill, he couldn't help feeling pain and regret. This spirit pill is that hard to obtain. Chapter 12:28. My, Gu Qingze's things, which one of them isn't hard to come by? Gu Qingze snappily stared at Qin Ning. Qin Ning stuck out her tongue in embarrassment and said with a smile, Yes, master's things are all treasures. This spirit rhinoceros pill requires this many complicated ingredients, so its effect must be amazing, right? Of course, after you take the spirit rhinoceros pill, you will be immune to all poisons. No matter who poisons you or if you are hit by a hidden weapon, you don't need to be afraid. No matter how strong the poison is, it will not have any effect on you. Gu Qingze proudly said. That's strong. Hearing this, Qin Ning and Jue Feng couldn't help opening their eyes wide. Jue Feng's eyes were filled with envy as he listened and his saliva almost came out. There was actually this kind of good thing in this world. Immune to all poisons. It was a pity there was only one. If there was a second one, he would have asked this divine Dr. Gu for his master no matter what. Master, this spirit rhinoceros pill is this strong? Qin Ning was shocked and filled with regret. If she knew it would be like this, she wouldn't have eaten it. This kind of good medicine should have been left for Emo Chuan. As the emperor, there must have been many people who hated him and wanted his life. Emo Chuan's martial arts were strong, so if the person was a martial arts expert, he would not be afraid. However, it was easy to dodge a spear in the open, but hard to defend against a hidden arrow. He was afraid that someone would secretly poison him, that was hard to defend against. If this spirit rhinoceros pill was given to Emo Chuan, how good would that be? Her heart was filled with regret, but she did not dare show it on her face. This was because she knew that Gu Qingze would rather feed the medicine to a dog than let her give it to Emo Chuan. Gu Qingze had been very generous and given the spirit rhinoceros pill he had kept for many years to Qin Ning. The more he thought about it, the more he regretted it. He finally couldn't help saying, Little girl Qin, you have to compensate me for this spirit rhinoceros pill. I will teach you alchemy techniques in the future as well as the recipe for this spirit rhinoceros pill. Qin Ning's eyes lit up and she nodded without any hesitation. Master can be assured. After you teach me, I will definitely refine a few more spirit rhinoceros pills for Master. She was thinking that if she really learned alchemy she would definitely refine a few more. Not only would she give them to Gu Qingze, she would also give them to Mo Chuan. Refine a few? It's already your good fortune to be able to successfully refine one. Gu Qingze's heart ached so much that he couldn't help glaring at Windchaser, which made Windchaser's hair stand on end. He thought that the person who took the Lingxi pill wasn't him, so why was Divine Dr. Gu glaring at him? Did he say or do something wrong? Blockhead, did you do it on purpose? Gu Qingze said coldly, there was no danger at all. You deliberately exaggerated and made me give away a Lingxi pill for nothing. Zhui Feng quickly said, Divine Dr. Gu, even if Zhui Feng had 100 guts, he wouldn't dare lie to you. I really felt someone hiding in the shadows and his invisibility technique is not below mine. I actually can't find any traces of him, I'm useless. Qining. Memento. Gu Qingze snorted again but did not pursue the matter any further. He had been with Zhui Feng for over 10 days and understood his personality very well. Zhui Feng was an honest person, speaking his mind and not daring to lie. Then will the conversation between us be overheard? Gu Qingze asked again. Chapter 1229. Gu Qingze was still a little worried. Qin girl, let's talk in the room. Qin Ning said, Master, I want to see Xiaobai first. I wonder if Xiaobai has woken up yet? That stinky brat hasn't woken up yet. He's just a pig, other than eating and sleeping he hasn't even opened his eyes. It's best if you don't disturb him right now. When Gu Qingze mentioned Chu Xiaobai, he did not have any good words to say. Qin Ning stuck out her tongue. She thought that Gu Qingze's temper was quite bad right now. It seemed like he didn't like everyone. Was it because she ate his spirit rhinoceros pill? Her heart was filled with guilt and she felt very embarrassed. In order to make Gu Qingze happy, she deliberately said, Master, I'm pushing you into the room and you're in such a hurry to call me over. Could it be that you've researched how to make 20 crossbows? Sure enough, her words immediately made Gu Qingze's gloomy face become excited as his brows began to dance. Should Qin girl be careful of the ears? Let's talk in the room. He shushed her and revealed a mysterious expression. He suddenly turned around and glared at Zhui Feng. Blockhead brat, you're not allowed to eavesdrop on me and Qin girl. Zhui Feng doesn't dare. Zhui Feng immediately replied. But after Gu Qingze said this, he knew that he had said something useless. With Zhui Feng's martial arts, he believed that if anyone within 20 meters spoke, he would be able to clearly hear them. Qin Ning pushed Gu Qingze into the quiet room he was resting in. As soon as the door was closed, Gu Qingze jumped out of his chair. He impatiently picked up a large stack of papers and presented it to Qin Ning like he was presenting a treasure. Qin girl, take a look. This is the blueprint I designed, 20 crossbows. Although he was extremely excited, he still suppressed his voice to a very low level. This was because he knew that the value of this design could not be estimated. If this was spread out, he, Gu Qingze, would not be able to live in peace for the rest of his life. Not to mention West Chu wanting this design at all costs, the other 3 countries would definitely view Gu Qingze as a rare commodity. They would only be satisfied if they had it. But he had a natural disposition and was used to being alone. He would not be like Qi Yinyu, who was willing to work for the northern Qi royal family. No matter how high Qi Yinyu's forging skills were, he was still a slave. He, Gu Qingze, looked down on slaves with no backbone. Qin Ning had already expected this. Hearing Gu Qingze's words, she was still overjoyed. Qin Ning had already expected this. Hearing Gu's words, she was overjoyed. In the past 2 days, she had looked at the blueprints of the quintuple repeating crossbow and the Zhuge repeating crossbow. She already had a clear understanding of the principles and structure of the crossbow. Although the blueprints that Gu Qingze had drawn were numerous and messy, she could still understand them. Master, you're so smart. You actually thought of making 2 arrow boxes and specially made arrows. This way you can solve the problem of the heavy crossbow. She said with surprise and joy. Qingze could not help revealing proud. Qin Chen's heart. Qingze Qingvi, said he, proud. As expected of the disciple that he had taken a fancy to. He had immediately hit the mark that he was most proud of. Qin. Name. Qin. She. I. Qin, I said, I see. Qin Ning smiled and continued to look at the blueprints. The more she looked, the more admiration she felt. Chapter 1230. Chen Ning was certain that with this blueprint, she would be able to create a 20 crossbow that would shock the world. 20 crossbows shooting 20 arrows at the same time. The might of it did not need to be said. But this was not the most powerful part. The most powerful part was that it was small and light so a single person could use it. She remembered that Chu Xiaoyang had superb archery skills. His cloud-piercing arrows could shoot 20 arrows in a single breath and no one in the capital could compare to him. Could be called the best archery in the world. But if these 20 crossbows were made, even a random person could have Chu Xiaoyang's divine archery skills. If these 20 crossbows were used on the battlefield, whether it was defending or attacking, it would be an incomparably sharp and invincible superweapon. It could be called the king of cold weapons. Chen Ning could almost imagine Mo Chuan's shocked expression when he found out that there was someone in this world that had created the 20 crossbow blueprint. Her hand holding the blueprint couldn't help slightly trembling. Master, these 20 crossbows are too shocking. Once they appear it will definitely cause a stir. But I think Master's meaning is that you don't plan on letting others know about this? Chen Ning looked at his expression and guessed what Gu Qingze was thinking. Gu Qingze had a proud look on his face. His calm face couldn't help revealing a smile. What fame? It's just like a fart, it's all fake. Your master has never liked that kind of bullshit fame. What #1 divine doctor in the world? It's like your master is nothing but bullshit other than medical skills. Humph, who in this world knows that I, Gu Qingze, am not best at medical skills, but rather at manufacturing skills? Qianyu, if you knew that I, Gu Qingze, designed 20 crossbows, would you kneel down and kowtow to me? Even if you want to be my, Gu Qingze's disciple, I won't even look at you. His eyes slightly narrowed and his voice filled with ridicule. It was like there really was a Qianyu kneeling down in front of him, begging him to become his disciple. Chen Ning never thought that Gu Qingze would have this kind of childish side. She couldn't help secretly laughing, but she didn't show it on her face at all. Master, do you have a grudge with this Qianyu? She asked in a curious voice. Grudge? That's not true. However, Master just can't stand his conduct. He's known as the world's #1 crafting master, but Master just can't accept it. What kind of world's #1 crafting master is he? Can he make 20 crossbows? Chen Ning suppressed a smile and seriously replied, of course he can't. Master is the #1 in the world. Not only is your medical skills #1, your manufacturing skills are also #1 in the world. Gu Qingze stared at her and said, Qi is to Qianyu, Master is the #1 in the world. But his lips couldn't help curling up and his eyes were filled with smiles. It was clear that Chen Ning's words had entered his ears. He did not care about a trivial reputation, but Chen Ning's praise was different from others. He knew that this little disciple of his was very smart and could be considered a rare talent that only appeared once in 100 years. There were not many people in this world that could be praised by her. Chapter 1231. Gu Qingze rolled his eyes at her, already seeing through her thoughts. He snorted and said, You little fox, stop trying to show off your cleverness in front of your master. Do you think your master doesn't know your narrow-mindedness? You want to give this blueprint to your darling husband, don't you? Chen Ning's face couldn't help turning red. She thought that her master was truly amazing. She had only said a single sentence and he had already seen through her thoughts. She openly admitted it, that's right. Didn't master anxiously call me over to give this blueprint to me? She pursed her lips into a smile. Give it to you? Who said your master wanted to give it to you? Gu Qingze stared at her. Then? Master wants to exchange it? Chen Ning blinked her eyes. What do you have that you can exchange with me? Gu Qingze looked at her. Chen Ning couldn't help sweating. She really didn't have anything valuable, other than the medical books in her mind. But if she used the medical books to exchange for the blueprint, it would seem insincere and she would be letting down her master's feelings for her. Master, you've accepted a poor disciple. My pockets are even cleaner than my face, I can't afford it. She honestly replied. She knew that a virtuous person like Gu Qingze would definitely not want money, so what exactly did he want? No matter how smart she was, she couldn't guess his thoughts. Gu Qingze was almost amused by her. He liked to hear this disciple say some strange and inexplicable words. Every time he heard it, it would make him happy. You stingy person, you actually have the nerve to say that you're poor in front of your master? You are the queen of a country, your pockets are cleaner than your face? Only you can say that. After Gu Qingze finished scolding her, he couldn't help curling his lips into a smile. But master, you also know that my title as the queen of a country is just an empty title, it can't be taken seriously. Then again, him having money is his problem, I have never thought of spending a man's money. It's not like I don't have the ability to make money. Good, you have ambition. Your master likes ambitious people. When Gu Qingze heard this, he couldn't help clapping his hands in praise. His admiration for her increased by another level. Qin Ning revealed a faint smile and said, "Then what does master want in exchange for this blueprint? What do you want me to use to exchange?" Gu Qingze snappily said, "Your pockets are cleaner than your face. What valuable thing can you use to exchange with me? Do you think your master's blueprints are worthless cabbages? It's not hard for you to want the blueprint, I just want you to promise me one." "What condition?" she asked in a strange voice. "I want you to participate in a competition on my behalf. This competition is very important, and you are only allowed to win, you are not allowed to lose. If you lose, master will immediately expel you from the sect." The smile on the corners of Gu Qingze's mouth vanished without a trace. His expression was incomparably solemn, and his tone was extremely stern. "Master, what kind of competition is it?" Seeing how serious Gu Qingze was, Qin Ning became even more curious. "You don't have to ask so many questions. You just have to tell me whether you agree or not. Gu gu. And gu, you say it. Gu, 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 gu. To say." Qin Ning blinked and said, "Master, you won't tell me what competition it is and you're telling me that I won't lose. Isn't this making things difficult for me? If you want me to compete with others in embroidery, eating and drinking, or breaking a monument with one palm, then I might as well just admit defeat." Chapter 1232. Qin Ning spread out her hands and giggled as she said, "Master is still making it hard for me. I don't know anything about medicine right now, and although I have the #1 master in the world, I haven't learned any medical skills at all. How do you want me to compete? No matter what the other side asks, I will lose." Her words were clearly retreating to advance, angering Gu Qingze to the point where he could only glare at her. He had a large headache and was secretly wondering if he had gone crazy. Why did he take this crafty little girl as his disciple? Wasn't this just asking for trouble? You don't need to use indirect methods to provoke your master. Since your master has taken you as his disciple, I will definitely teach you to become a famous doctor. Humph, you are naturally talented and have a photographic memory, these skills are even better than your master's. Adding in a master expert like me teaching you, if you can't finish your studies in a year, do you still have the face to call me master in the future? I want to learn master's medical skills in a year? Qin Ning smacked her lips and said with a bitter smile, "Master, you think too highly of me. Even good iron needs to be tempered. You should rest and slack off for this year. Once that stinky young master is better, you will immediately return to the Godly Physician Valley with me. Without any distractions, you can focus on your studies." Gu Qingze said with a serious face. "Master, you want to bring me to the Godly Physician Valley for a year?" Qin Ning was shocked. "What, you're not willing? You want to stay here and be the Empress? You don't want to give up on wealth, right?" Gu Qingze's face sunk like it was covered in a layer of frost. Qin Ning shook her head. She was willing to learn medicine, especially after personally witnessing how Gu Qingze used all his effort to save Chu Xiaobai from the god of death. This made her even more confident in learning medicine. If she had learned medicine well, she wouldn't have been so helpless when she saw her loved ones getting sick or injured. "If I really was a greedy person, would Master still take me as a disciple?" "Master, it's not that I don't want to return to the Godly Physician Valley with you, only—" Her face turned a little red, thinking that Mo Chuan would never agree. Dr. Zhang had only told him to wait for a month, but he was already unwilling. If she told him that she wanted to separate from him for a year, would Mo Chuan agree? "You're not willing to leave your emperor husband?" Gu Qingze saw through her thoughts and gave a laugh. "What's there to be unwilling about? How old are you? You're already immersed in love, what future can you have? It's just a year, but when you learn medicine you can benefit tens of thousands of people. It's just a year, but when you learn medicine you will be able to leave." His words made Qin Ning feel ashamed. She lowered her head and said, "Master's teachings are correct. All right, I promise Master that when Xiaobai recovers, I will go with Master to the Godly Physician Valley to learn." Gu Qingze revealed a faint smile. "Qin is my good disciple. Master's efforts in developing these 20 repeating crossbows were not in vain." Qin. Qin, Ning Qin. Qin Ning blinked. She couldn't help feeling angry and funny at the same time. She called out, "Master." Only now did she understand why Gu Qingze would forget to eat and sleep to study those 20 crossbows, and why he immediately called her over as soon as he finished drawing the blueprint. He had clearly dug a trap for her to jump into. Chapter 1233. Gu Qingze leisurely leaned back in his chair. He smiled as he looked at Chen Ning and said, "Little girl Chen, why don't you give this 20 crossbow a name?" Chen Ning's heart was filled with anger as she blurted out, "Let's call it the Godly Dr. Crossbow." No. The Godly Dr. Crossbow doesn't have any aura, it doesn't match such a domineering crossbow. Gu Qingze was not angry. He looked up and thought for a bit, "What do you think about calling it the Mountain Pushing Crossbow?" Mountain Pushing Crossbow? It has the power to move mountains and rivers, good. Chen Ning nodded and said in agreement, "Master's name is more imposing. Then let's call it the Mountain Pushing Crossbow." Although she pretended to be angry on the surface, she was filled with gratitude for Gu Qingze's painstaking efforts. After being in contact with Gu Qingze for this period of time, she already knew that he was a person with a cold face but a warm heart. He would be cold to people that he didn't care about, but if they entered his eyes, he would protect them and treat them with all his heart. He had accepted her as his disciple and truly treated her as his disciple. Hearing that she was in danger, he did not hesitate to take out the spirit rhinoceros pill that he had kept for many years. Knowing that she wanted the 20 crossbows, he did his best to help her fulfill her wish. Even saving Chu Xiaobai, he did his best. Chen Ning looked at Gu Qingze's messy hair, his sunken eyes and his sloppy appearance. Her eyes couldn't help becoming hot. In the few days since arriving in the capital, he hadn't had a good night's sleep, nor had he had a good meal. He had lost a lot of weight. This master of his really couldn't be any better to her. But thinking about it, she really hadn't done anything for him. Her heart was filled with shame. She secretly thought that her master's request for her was to learn his medical skills. This was the only way she could repay her master's kindness. As for why he spent so much effort to make her study medicine with him, that was not important at all. The important thing was that she saw what Gu Qingze had done for her. "Master, once Xiaobai's injuries are healed, we'll go back to the Godly Doctor Valley. I promised Master that I would definitely win that competition. I definitely won't lose Master's face and ruin Master's reputation." She looked up with sparkling eyes and a determined expression. "Good girl, then it's a promise. You can take away the mountain-pushing crossbow blueprints and give it to whoever you want, it's yours. Remember, you can't tell a single word of what I said to you today. As for who made this mountain-pushing crossbow, I don't even want to know. It has nothing to do with me." Chen Ning smiled as she put away the blueprints like they were treasures. She took out a wooden box and placed it in her arms. She knew that Gu Qingze said this because he didn't want the mountain-pushing crossbow to have anything to do with him in the slightest, lest he would be troubled in the future. "I understand. Master, don't worry. Look at your dirty appearance. How long has it been since you last bathed? Your body is stinking." She deliberately frowned and pinched her nose. Gu Qingze's face couldn't help but turn red. He lifted his sleeve and smelled it. Oh, it really smelled good. Isn't this master doing this to save that stinky brat and to draw these broken blueprints? You heartless disciple, actually daring to look down on your master. Now your master will punish you. Immediately bring me a large basin of bath water. It has to be hot, the hotter the better. Chapter 1234. Chen Ning walked out with a smile. Zhui Feng was guarding the yard, looking in a certain direction with a vigilant expression. Hearing the sound, his sharp eyes looked over. Seeing that it was Chen Ning, he let out a sigh of relief. Not long ago he had suddenly felt danger approaching, so he jumped onto the roof and went up to meet it. Who would have thought that before he could even get close, that dangerous aura would disappear? Zhui Feng looked around and did not find any traces at all, making him even more vigilant. He was now certain that there was indeed someone spying on them in the surroundings. Moreover, this person's concealment technique was not inferior to his. Even he could not track them. Expert, it was definitely an expert. Seeing Chen Ning come out, he immediately went forward. "Empress, we can't stay here for long, let's quickly return to the palace," he suggested. Chen Ning nodded. She was holding the wooden box with the blueprints in her hands. The value of these thin blueprints could not be estimated and she wanted to send them safely into Mo Chuan's hands as soon as possible. "Wait for me to see Xiaobai and then we'll return to the palace." "That's right, Zhui Feng, I have something very important here and I'm afraid that something will happen on the way back to the palace. Think of a way to send a group of royal guards over to escort us back to the palace." Her words matched Zhui Feng's intentions. "Empress, please be assured. This subordinate will immediately gather people." He took out a firework from his chest and threw it into the air. There was a flame that shot into the sky just like a meteor flying across the sky. This subordinate's secret signal for the secret guards. Not long after, there will be secret guards coming to escort the Empress. Their martial arts are much higher than the royal guards, so they will follow in secret and not reveal themselves. If there really is someone that wants to harm the Empress, they will definitely not be able to come and go. Zhui Feng confidently patted his chest. Qin Ning nodded with a faint smile. She called over the servants of Dr. Zhang's palace and ordered them to prepare a bath for Gu Qingze. She also found 2 servants to serve him before softly walking into Chu Xiaobai's room. Dr. Zhang was currently taking Chu Xiaobai's pulse. Seeing her come in, he quickly stood up and bowed. "How is Xiaobai? Has he woken up yet?" Dr. Zhang shook his head and said in a soft voice, "King Jingyan's pulse is very calm, but he hasn't woken up yet. The divine Dr. Gu said that sleep is the best way for him to recover, so he ordered no one to disturb King Jingyan's rest. He also had people feed King Jingyan twice a day." Qin Ning nodded and walked in front of the bed. Sure enough, she saw that Chu Xiaobai's face was very peaceful. His pale face had recovered a bit of blood, no longer having that lifeless look. Her heart was filled with joy. She looked up and saw Dr. Zhang's puzzled expression. She asked in a small voice, "Dr. Zhang, do you have any questions?" Chapter 1235. Dr. Zhang was very envious of Qin Ning. As the disciple of the godly doctor, she could ask her master if she had any questions, but he did not have this fortune. So he could only use this kind of roundabout method to find the answer to his question. Qin Ning admired his attitude of learning from old age. He was not like the other doctors in the yard who were stubborn and arrogant. They thought that after entering the yard they could look down on their peers. "Alright, my master is currently bathing and he hasn't rested in a long time. Once he's rested, I will definitely ask my master for advice. Dr. Zhang, I have an urgent matter that requires me to return to the palace. I'll ask Dr. Zhang to take care of Xiaobai." "Empress, please be assured. This old minister will do his best to take care of King Jing," and Dr. Zhang respectfully sent Qin Ning to the door. Zhui Feng came forward. "Empress, the secret guards are here. Let's return to the palace." "They're here?" Qin Ning looked around and did not see a single extra person. However, she knew that these secret guards were hiding in a place that others could not see. She instantly felt her heart calm down. Holding the wooden box, she left the palace and entered a small blue silk sedan. Zhui Feng followed behind the sedan and the other secret guards did not appear. They were hidden in the shadows as they escorted Qin Ning back to the palace. Damn, where did these powerful fellows come from ruining this young master's plans? In a corner that Zhui Feng could not see, a pair of phoenix eyes revealed a cold glow. He looked at Qin Ning's sedan with hatred as it went further and further away until it disappeared. That skinny bamboo pole, he doesn't look like he has any meat on him, but he is actually powerful. This young master has hidden himself this far away, but he can still feel this young master's existence. This young master has really underestimated him. The red-clothed young master said to himself, but very quickly, the depressed look on his face disappeared and he revealed a country-destroying smile. In this world, this young master has never failed to take someone's head. This time will not be an exception. Alright, I'll let you live for a few more days. Have a taste of the little thing this young master has prepared for you. After he said this, the red figure disappeared without a trace. After the red-clothed young master disappeared, Zhui Feng suddenly felt that indescribable pressure disappear. He couldn't help looking in the direction the red-clothed young master was hiding before using his qigong. Like a breeze he floated to that corner. There was a faint smell in the air. He forcefully inhaled it and suddenly felt that this smell was a bit familiar. It was like he had smelled it before but he could not remember. But there was indeed someone hiding here before. He was certain that this person was someone who wanted to harm Qin Ning. But he had suddenly disappeared. What reason would make him give up? He must have seen the whereabouts of the shadow guards, which was why he retreated. Zhui Feng did not dare leave Qin Ning's side for too long. He looked around and did not find any clues left by the red-clothed young master. He did not stay for long and quickly caught up to Qin Ning's sedan chair. The palace not of Ning of said. Qin Ning directly returned to the Guan Osprey Palace and found that Mo Chuan was not back yet. She brought Zhui Feng and the wooden box to the royal study. Chapter 1236. What made Qin Ning feel strange was that there was not a single guard around the royal study. Other than Xiaoxi, there was no one else. What was going on? Her heart felt strange. She walked next to Xiaoxi and called out, "Xiaoxi, is the emperor inside?" It was unknown what Xiaoxi was thinking, but he did not even notice Qin Ning walking next to him. Only when he heard this did he suddenly look up and see Qin Ning. "Royal Empress, The expression on his face suddenly changed like a mouse seeing a cat. He jumped up from the stairs and turned to run into the royal study. Xiaoxi, stop. Am I a tiger that you're running when you see me? Qin Ning's heart was filled with doubt as she shouted at him. Xiaoxi's heart was filled with bitterness, but he did not dare not listen to her. He could only stop and turn around, bowing to Qin Ning. This servant greets the Empress, he said in a loud voice. Qin Ning was even more suspicious. Xiaoxi raising his voice for no reason was clearly for the people in the royal study to hear. He was sending a message. This meant that Mo Chuan in the royal study had Xiaoxi stand guard outside. What was he doing inside that he had to be so mysterious, even hiding her from him? But Qin Ning did not expose Xiaoxi and just softly said, Xiaoxi, why are you running? Is the emperor in the royal study? Xiaoxi nodded and bowed as he said, yes, the emperor is inside. This servant wants to send a message for the Empress. I asked the Empress to wait a bit, this servant will immediately send a message. He quickly turned to leave but Qin Ning cut him off again. There's no need to send a message. Qin Ning walked past Xiaoxi and walked into the royal study. She reached out to push the door but she did not push it open. The door was actually bolted from the inside. He had guessed correctly. There was something strange inside. Xiaoxi's face was filled with fear. He desperately looked at Zhui Feng and pouted his lips, telling him to think of a way to take Qin Ning away. Zhui Feng looked at Xiaoxi with a confused expression. Xiaoxi, why is your mouth crooked? Also, why are you blinking at me? Are you convulsing? Next time you go to Dr. Zhang's palace and find the ancient divine doctor to take a look. As long as the ancient divine doctor can make a move, he will be able to cure your convulsion. He sincerely said. Wind, are you King stupid? Xiaoxi could not breathe and was almost choked to death by Zhui Feng. Zhui Feng's face sank. Xiaoxi, I'm talking to you nicely, why are you scolding me? So what if I scold you? I even hit you. I'll beat you up, you muddle-headed fellow. Xiaoxi raised his hand and slapped Zhui Feng's face. With Zhui Feng's back, how could Xiaoxi hit him? He lightly dodged and dodged Xiaoxi's palm. Then he pushed Xiaoxi's shoulder. Xiaoxi lost his footing and fell to the ground. Good boy, you really hit me. Xiaoxi's chin hurt and he was filled with anger. He jumped up from the ground and clenched his fists, attacking Zhui Feng like a storm. Zhui Feng's figure moved as he dodged Xiaoxi's fists. He asked with a face of concern, Xiaoxi, I didn't push you on purpose. Did it hurt? It hurts so much. What's the use of apologizing now? Why didn't you think about apologizing when you pushed me? Little Four angrily shouted, his attacks becoming more and more vicious. Chapter 1237. When Qin Ning saw this, she felt it was very funny. Xiaoxi was truly loyal to his master. Did he think that he could attract her attention with this move? He was looking down on Qin Ning too much. She pushed the door again but it still did not open. She tilted her head and listened. The royal study was completely silent. If Mo Chuan was here, he would have heard her voice and come to open the door. So, something must have happened inside. Zhui Feng and Xiaoxi were fighting intensely in the yard at this time. Qin Ning did not even look at the two of them as she punched the window paper. She reached in and opened the door latch before walking in without any hesitation. Oh. Xiaoxi saw this from the corner of his eyes and his chin almost fell off. He quickly wanted to stop her, but he was entangled by Zhui Feng and could not escape. Zhui Feng, you fool, what are you entangling me for? Quickly stop. He angrily shouted. Why are you scolding me again? Xiaoxi, I didn't offend you. Moreover, you were the one who made a move first, you. Zhui Feng kept blabbering and his hands did not stop, making it impossible for Xiaoxi to escape. Zhui Feng, quickly stop. I need to go in and stop the Empress, otherwise something big is going to happen. Xiaoxi shouted. He did not care about Zhui Feng's palm as he turned around and ran into the royal study. Zhui Feng's palm had already reached Xiaoxi's back and he was frozen in the air. He looked at Xiaoxi in a daze, completely confused. With a ping sound, when Xiaoxi was about to enter the royal study, the two doors suddenly closed in front of him. Xiaoxi could not stop in time and his head hit the door. His nose hit the door frame and his nose turned sour as two streams of tears flowed down. Xiaoxi, your guard skills aren't bad. You should stay outside to guard the door. Qin Ning's cold voice came from behind the door. Xiaoxi's heart turned cold. He rubbed his nose and stared at the large hole in the window paper in a daze. His heart was filled with bitterness, but he did not dare open the door again. Zhui Feng rushed over and said, The Empress has something to see the Emperor about, Why are you using all sorts of excuses to not let the Empress in? With your current appearance, you deserve it. Xiao Si angrily stared at his gloating face. With a snort, he turned his face away and scolded, "Idiot! Who are you calling an idiot?" Zhui Feng's face turned cold and his eyes turned cold. "Whoever answers me is an idiot. Xiao Si, don't think that just because we are brothers I won't teach you a lesson. If you dare scold me again." Zhui Feng coldly raised his fist. Xiao Si didn't even look at him. He walked over to the steps and sat down, letting out a long sigh. "It's over. The Empress has gone in. She's definitely in big trouble now. What should we do later?" Zhui Feng was confused hearing this. He couldn't help walking beside him and asking, "Xiao Si, what are you muttering about?" "What an idiot!" Xiao Si angrily scolded. "If it wasn't for your unreasonable pestering, I would definitely have been able to stop the Empress. Now, it's over. The Emperor will definitely kill me." "Xiao Si, speak clearly. The Emperor should be happy to see the Empress. Why would he hit you?" Chapter 1238. Who else is there? Zhaorong Princess. Xiao Si said in a low voice. "What? The Zhaorong Princess is inside. With the Emperor?" Hearing this, Zhui Feng's mouth fell open in shock as he revealed a look of disbelief. "Of course." Xiao Si rolled his eyes at him. "It's not 2 people now, it's 3 people. The Empress has also gone in. Ai, what do you think we should do?" He looked like he was about to cry. Chen Ning entered the royal study and closed the door to Xiao Si. She turned around and looked around the room, but there was not a single person there. There was a dragon throne behind the throne filled with documents, but Emo Chuan's figure was not there. She raised her voice and called out, "Emo Chuan?" No one responded to her. Chen Ning thought about it and then walked into the quiet room behind the royal study. There was a soft couch in the quiet room. Emo Chuan would sometimes rest on the couch when he was tired. Perhaps Emo Chuan had fallen asleep? Xiao Si was afraid that she would disturb Emo Chuan's rest, so he stopped her outside the door? She laughed inwardly at her own paranoia. Softening her steps, she arrived in front of the quiet room. She saw that the 2 doors were closed and there was no sound coming from inside. Emo Chuan must have fallen asleep, that's why he did not hear her footsteps. Moreover, he must be sleeping very soundly, otherwise with his cultivation, he would have woken up with the slightest movement. Chen Ning hesitated a bit, not knowing if she should go in and disturb him. At this time she suddenly heard a woman's whisper. The voice was sweet and soft like it was about to melt. "Cousin." When this voice entered her ears, Chen Ning's body trembled. Zhaorong Princess. Why was she here? There was nothing strange about her being here. She was the Zhaorong Princess and was Emo Chuan's cousin. Chen Ning raised her brows and reached out to open the door. She was shocked by the scene in the room. As she expected, Emo Chuan's eyes were closed and he was sleeping soundly on the couch. However, there was another girl beside him. Her clothes were untidy, her shoulders were slightly exposed, and her skin was as white as snow. She was currently leaning against Emo Chuan's chest with one hand around Emo Chuan's neck. Her eyes were closed and the 2 of them were in a very intimate position. Although she could only see half of the girl's face, Chen Ning immediately recognized her. This girl was the Zhaorong Princess. But she could tell with a glance that Emo Chuan was really asleep and the Zhaorong Princess was pretending to be asleep. Her eyelashes were trembling as if she was peeking at her. Such small tricks. Chen Ning was secretly laughing in her stomach, but her face was as cold as ice. With a cold look on her face, she suddenly turned around and left without saying a word. Ning Ning couldn't help smiling as she looked at Chen's back. He left in anger just like that? She couldn't help but reveal a smile on her face. Ning Ning Chen, she Chuan Chuan, Chen smiling. She heard Chen Ning's footsteps coming back and quickly closed her eyes. She leaned against Emo Chuan's chest and continued to pretend to sleep. Of Ling of King Chen, and of she, of. Chapter 1239. The Zhaorong Princess was caught off guard and let out a scream. It was like she had been stung by a scorpion as she jumped off the couch. She felt a burning pain where the water had landed. Looking down, she saw that her body was completely red and there was red water dripping down her clothes. Her face fell in fright. "Cheap woman, what are you doing? What did you do?" She panicked as she covered her face and shouted, my face hurts so much." Chen Ning threw the empty basin on the ground and coldly said, "This time it's pepper water to teach you a lesson. If you dare climb onto the dragon couch again, I will pour vinegar on your face and ruin it. Chili water. How dare you pour chili water on me? You. So it's you? Little fox spirit, you really are bold, actually sneaking into the palace. The Zhaorong princess finally realized that the person in front of her was Chen Ning. She gritted her teeth in hatred. Why would I need to sneak in? I live in the palace. Chen Ning coldly looked at her and then her eyes fell onto Emo Chuan on the couch. Although her bowl of pepper water was poured on Zhaorong princess, Emo Chuan was also drenched quite a bit. His dragon robe turned into a red robe, but he was still in a deep sleep. With Emo Chuan's cultivation he would not be like this, so he must have been tricked. You live in the palace? My cousin actually brought a little fox spirit like you into the palace? The Zhaorong princess did not care about the burning pain on her face as she pointed at Chen Ning and screamed out. Her eyes revealed a deep hatred. Chen Ning slightly curled her lips and suddenly asked, "Who is the little fox spirit scolding?" "The little fox spirit scolding you." The Zhaorong princess blurted out without any hesitation. As soon as she said this, she immediately realized that she had been tricked by Chen Ning again. She was so angry that she almost spat out blood. She raised her right palm and slapped at Chen Ning's face. She hated Chen Ning to the core and wanted to destroy the other side's beautiful face. With this move, she used all her internal energy. This move was very ruthless and very fast. In terms of words, even 10 Zhaorong princess would not be a match for Chen Ning. But in terms of martial arts, even 10 Chen Ning would not be a match for a single Zhaorong princess. Even if Chen Ning had learned some modern martial arts, she did not have any internal energy at all. Although the Zhaorong princess was not a martial arts expert, it was more than enough to deal with her. When the Zhaorong princess saw the palm fly out, the wind was very strong, causing Chen Ning's hair to fly up. Chen Ning just stood there in a daze, not moving at all. She clearly did not have any chance to retaliate. Her heart filled with pride and joy as she revealed a fierce smile. "Little slut, die," she shouted. Now that Emo Chuan wasn't standing up for her, she was just a fish in his palm. Chen. The Zhaorong princess only saw a gray shadow flash in front of her and it was like a gray wind had come in from the door. Her right arm violently trembled and a large force hit her. She couldn't help taking a few steps back and she almost fell to the ground. Her palm had missed, so naturally she was not willing. Looking over, she saw a thin bamboo stick person standing in front of Chen Ning, protecting her. It was the driver that had driven Chen Ning's carriage. Her heart instantly turned cold and she began to tremble. Zhui Feng was like a killing god from hell that day, it had truly scared her to death. Chapter 1240. She pointed at Zhui Feng and shouted, "I am the Zhaorong princess, have you forgotten this princess identity? This is the royal palace, the emperor's study, it is not a place for you to act wildly. In front of the emperor you two are flirting like this, truly a good pair of husband and..." Before the word wife could even come out, Chen Ning's brows jumped up and she said, "Zhui Feng, slap her." Yes. Zhui Feng had long disliked the Zhaorong princess' arrogance. Last time, because of her princess status, he did not dare make a move, he only smashed her carriage as a small punishment. Now that he found out that the Zhaorong princess dared to make a move against the empress and slander his and the empress' reputation, he did not want to endure it anymore. Pa 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 pa. A few crisp slaps rang out. Zhaorong Juanju's cheeks now had a few red handprints on them. Zhui Feng did not use any internal strength, so these slaps only made the Zhaorong princess feel pain, but she was not injured. Even if it was like this, this was the biggest shame the Zhaorong princess had ever experienced since she was born. "What kind of thing are you, daring to hit this princess? You dog. Couple, this princess will skin you alive and tear your corpses into 10,000 pieces." The Zhaorong princess was filled with rage as her eyes turned blood red. She hated Chen Ning and Zhui Feng to the extreme, but she was afraid of Zhui Feng's martial arts, so she did not dare make a move. "I am following the Empress' orders. Whatever the Empress wants this subordinate to do, this subordinate will do," Zhui Feng coldly replied. "What Empress? You're saying that this little slut is the Empress?" "Empress? Humph, is she worthy?" The Zhaorong princess gave a laugh, clearly not believing it at all. "What, this princess is not worthy of being the Empress? Then does the princess feel that you are suitable for this position? All right, as long as the emperor agrees, this princess is willing to give the empress position to you." Chen Ning revealed a faint smile and called herself this princess. The Zhaorong princess was filled with rage and was about to curse out loud. Her eyes swept over and fell onto Chen Ning's waist. She was instantly stunned like her acupuncture point had been poked. There was a ribbon hanging from Qin Ning's waist and there was a phoenix-shaped jade pendant on it. It was very lifelike and the carvings were very exquisite. Even the phoenix feathers were clearly carved as if they were about to fly. The jade was a pure white, showing that it was a rare piece of jade. She was a knowledgeable person and knew that this treasure was not normal. Looking at it carefully, she could see that this was not a normal treasure. Could it be that she was the Empress? The Zhaorong princess sucked in a cold breath. She looked up and stared at Qin Ning in disbelief. "Are you really the Empress?" She squeezed out a few words. Qin Ning carelessly combed her hair that had been messed up by the wind from her palm. She found a chair to sit down and calmly looked at her. "There's nothing good about being the Empress. Isn't she still beaten and scolded by others? When the Emperor wakes up, I'll tell the Emperor that I don't want to be the Empress anymore. He can give it to whoever he wants." Hearing this, the Zhaorong princess was pleasantly surprised. She ignored the pain on her cheeks and asked, "Really? Will you keep your word?" Chapter 1241. Zhui Feng did not dare agree as he said, "Empress, you can't." He couldn't help looking at Emo Chuan on the couch and thinking, what's wrong with the Emperor? Why is he still pretending to be asleep? Can't you see that there's already a big fight going on here? The Empress doesn't even want the Empress position. If he still doesn't wake up, what should we do about this matter? Xiaoxi was hiding far away, afraid of being scolded by Emo Chuan. When he heard that Zhui Feng had received Qin Ning's orders to slap the Zhaorong princess and the Empress was angry, saying that she didn't want to be the Empress anymore, what could he do? He didn't care about anything else as he quickly charged in. "Emperor, Emperor, wake up. What's wrong with the Emperor?" He called out to Emo Chuan several times but Emo Chuan was still asleep. Xiaoxi finally realized that something was wrong and began to panic. Qin Ning's eyes turned and fell onto the 2 teacups on the table. She already knew what was going on and couldn't help glaring at the unconscious Emo Chuan. If it wasn't for him losing his guard against the Zhaorong princess, how could he have fallen into this trap? She calmly sat on the chair and lightly said, "Perhaps the Emperor doesn't want to wake up. Let him continue to sleep. Junju Nyang Yang, you are a dignified Junju. Coming to the imperial study without being summoned and sleeping with the Emperor in disheveled clothes? If this matter were to spread, I'm afraid it wouldn't be good for your reputation, right?" Zhui Feng and Xiaoxi's eyes immediately looked over at the Zhaorong princess. If Qin Ning didn't remind them, they wouldn't have noticed that the Zhaorong princess's clothes were indeed disheveled. Her collar was open, revealing half of her shoulder, but her body was dripping wet, just like a plucked chicken. Their hearts skipped a beat. They were secretly thinking that the Emperor wouldn't have done that with her, right? The Zhaorong princess' face turned red from the strange gazes of the two of them. She quickly pulled up her clothes and then glared at Qin Ning. Qin Ning's eyes were filled with hatred. She had purposely pulled up her clothes to create the illusion that the rice had been cooked, angering Qin Ning away. She didn't care about her reputation at all. As long as she could become the Emperor's cousin's woman, she could pay any price. "Empress, is what you just said true? If the Emperor wakes up and personally says that he doesn't want you, will you give up the Empress position?" She impatiently asked. Hearing this, Zhui Feng and Xiaoxi looked at her with a look of disdain. It was unknown if this Zhaorong princess' head had been squeezed by a door, but her words were very childish. They had all seen how the Emperor treated the Empress. Even if the world was dyed red, the Emperor would not abandon the Empress. But why didn't the Emperor wake up? If something happened between the Emperor and Zhaorong, then what Feng would be the Emperor? Qin Ning gave a tsk and curled her lips as she said, "Princess consort, not only is your brain not working well, even your ears are not working well? Don't you remember what I just said? As the saying goes, what you eat will nourish you. It seems that your highness should eat more pig's brains and ears in the future to nourish yourself." Xiaoxi couldn't help but let out a laugh. Chapter 1242. Cousin wake up. Cousin wake up. The Zhao Rong princess back was facing everyone as she shook Missouri Chuan's shoulder. Her voice was sweet and soft, giving Zhui Feng and Xiao Si goosebumps. The Zhao Rong princess blocked everyone's view and secretly took out a small porcelain bottle from her sleeve. She shook it in front of Emo Chuan's nose. Emo Chuan sneezed a few times and slowly opened his eyes. His consciousness was still a little hazy. Suddenly, a warm and soft body threw itself into his arms and hugged his neck. Cousin, you're finally awake. Emo Chuan's body turned cold and his eyes opened wide. He saw that the girl in his embrace was the Zhao Rong princess and he pushed her away without any politeness. Zhao Rong, what did you put in the tea? He took a deep breath and his internal energy flowed through his body. His originally blurry mind became clear. He immediately thought back to the scene before he fainted. The Zhao Rong princess came without an invitation and used the excuse of catching up to apologize for what happened yesterday. The common saying was that one shouldn't hit a smiling person. The Zhao Rong princess had apologized in a soft voice and brought up the past, so naturally Emo Chuan couldn't lower his face to scold her. The Zhao Rong princess poured 2 cups of tea and gave one to him. She said that she wanted to use tea instead of wine to apologize to him. He had never thought that Zhao Rong Junju, who he viewed as his little sister, would play tricks with the tea. After drinking the tea, he immediately realized that something was wrong. He wanted to use his internal energy to force the medicine out of the tea, but before he could do so, he fell onto the soft couch and fell into a deep sleep. Zhao Rong, you really are bold, actually daring to drug this one. Emo Chuan thought of that scene and his heart filled with anger. His right hand reached out and tightly grabbed the Zhao Rong princess' wrist as he questioned her in a sharp voice. Cousin, you're hurting Rong, what drug? Rong, doesn't know anything. The Zhao Rong princess felt a sharp pain in her wrist and tears came out, making her look even more pitiful. You? Emo Chuan's voice suddenly stopped. His eyes fell onto Qin Ning's face and his angry face couldn't help revealing a shocked expression. Ning, why are you here? Qin Ning held the wooden box and her clear black and white eyes looked at him. She meaningfully said, I came here to give you a large gift, but I never thought that I would see such a wonderful show. After she said this, she winked at Emo Chuan. What show? Emo Chuan couldn't help knitting his brows. Of course it's a good show put on by the princess. Qin Ning's face turned serious and she coldly said, when I opened the door, I saw you lying on the bed but you weren't alone. Beside you was the delicate Zhao Rong princess. Chapter 1243. As soon as Qin Ning finished speaking, Zhao Rong princess began to cry with a wah sound. Cousin, after Rong drank the tea, she fainted for some reason. As for what happened afterwards, Rong doesn't know at all, but suddenly Rong was awoken by her pepper water. She charged in from outside and called herself the Empress. Not only did she scold Rong, she even sent her subordinates to slap Rong face. Look at Rong face. Woo, cousin, you have to help Rong. She pulled on Emo Chuan's sleeve as she cried out in sorrow. Emo Chuan mercilessly pulled his sleeve out of her hand and coldly said, Zhao Rong, you should know what you did. If it wasn't you who put the medicine in the tea, then who else could it be? If you didn't know anything and fainted after drinking the medicine with me, then why did you wake up when Ning poured the pepper water on me and I fell asleep the entire time? Emo Chuan's words made Zhao Rong speechless. She stammered, not knowing how to lie. She saw Qin Ning looking at her with a cold smile and steeled her heart. She threw caution to the wind and said, Cousin, when Rong woke up, she found herself in your embrace and your hands were touching my body. Her face was filled with embarrassment and she almost couldn't continue. Cousin, Rong is already yours, you have to take responsibility for Rong. Take responsibility? How do you want this one to take responsibility? Emo Chuan coldly stared at her. Zhao Rong princess shivered under his gaze and gathered her courage to say, Cousin Rong has a wish since she was young, that is to marry cousin when she grows up. Rong has grown up now, cousin likes Rong and Rong likes cousin. The Empress has just said that she doesn't want to be your Empress anymore. She said that as long as cousin says it, she is willing to give up the Empress position. Cousin, say something, do you want to marry Rong Your meaning is that she wants to give up the Empress position to you? Emo Chuan couldn't help staring at Qin Ning. Qin Ning revealed an uncaring smile and said, That's right, I'm the one who said this. Being an Empress is really boring, even a trivial princess can order this queen around, hitting and scolding this queen whenever she wants. This queen doesn't want to be this kind of Empress. Emperor, you should be merciful and take the Empress crown away. If the princess wants it, then you can give it to her to play with. Zhao Rong princess was filled with joy. Cousin, as long as you say it, then Rong will marry you. Mo Chuan did not even look at the Zhao Rong princess. His eyes were like ice as he stared at Qin Ning. His heart wished he could strangle this little girl who said such strange things. Did she not care for the position of Empress that he had given her? She didn't as she wanted it? Emperor, the princess can't wait any longer, just give the decree. Qin Ning lazily stretched out, sitting in the chair without standing up. Alright, this one will give the decree now. Come, throw the princess out of the palace. Without this one's orders, she is not allowed to take a single step into the palace. End of it. Mo Chuan's voice was clear and powerful as he said this. Then with a wave of his sleeve, the princess was thrown out and fell to the ground. Cousin, what did you say? You want to throw Rong out of the palace? Chapter 1244. Zhui Feng Xiaoxi, are you both deaf? Are you treating this one's words as wind? Mo Chuan's shout woke up Zhui Feng and Xiaoxi, who were in a daze. Yes, this subordinate, this servant obeys. Zhui Feng reached out and grabbed the Zhao Rong princess collar. He picked her up like an eagle carrying a little chick and left without saying a word. The Zhao Rong princess wanted to struggle, but her neck was being held and her limbs were sore, only her mouth could move. Let go of me, let go of this princess. Stinky brat, if you dare touch this princess will pull out your tendons and flay your bones. She loudly cursed while staring at Qin Ning. Don't be happy, this princess will not let you go. Zhui Feng's movement technique was very fast and he quickly couldn't hear the Zhao Rong princess cursing anymore. The royal study finally returned to its peace. Xiaoxi shrunk his neck, not daring to breathe too loudly. He quietly retreated and then closed the door, feeling his heart still beating fast. In the royal study there was only Qin Ning and Mo Chuan left. Qin Ning was sitting in the chair looking at Mo Chuan with a smile. The expression on her face was very strange and she was tightly holding the wooden box in her chest. Mo Chuan's appearance was in a very sorry state. His dragon robe was wet and dirty and the smell of pepper filled his nose, making him want to sneeze. His heart was filled with anger from Qin Ning's gaze. He suddenly took a step forward and grabbed her wrist, gritting his teeth. Little girl, your husband has been tricked by someone else and you have this kind of expression like you're watching a play? Girl, do you even have a heart? Say, it's not like I tricked you, why are you acting all high and mighty towards me? Mo Chuan's face couldn't help turning red before he angrily said, you're purposely making fun of me, aren't you? He was indeed angry and annoyed. Speaking of this was the first time he had been tricked by someone. It was a good thing that the Zhao Rong princess had only drugged him, otherwise he really didn't know what he would have done and made a big mistake. How could I make fun of you? Qin Ning shook her head. Her eyes were clear and gentle as she softly said, Mo Chuan, it's a good thing that you care about the past, but you've never thought that she's a sheep, but she's actually a wolf in sheep's clothing. You think she's still a little sister that hasn't grown up, but she's already drugged your tea. This time it's a drug, who knows what it will be next time. In short, you have to be on guard against others. Even if it's me, you have to be on guard against me. You have to be on guard against others, even if it is me. Qin Ning was right, he did care about the friendship he had with Zhao Rong princess. His intuition told him that she would not harm him, so he drank the cup of tea she personally poured for him. Ning, I can trust no one in this world, but the only person I trust is you. Qin staring into her eyes, Xiao Qin Tian Mo Chuan Ning Chuan Chuan. Qin Ning finally smiled and said, sweet words and a smooth tongue. Ning, do you trust me? Mo Chuan didn't smile as he looked at her with a serious expression. Nothing happened between me and Zhao Rong. Although I lost consciousness, I know that I didn't do anything. Chapter 1245. Mo Chuan broke into a smile and reached out to rub her hair. His heart that had been hanging in the air finally fell back down. His heart was filled with sweetness and satisfaction. He wanted to hold her in his arms, but she shrank back and avoided his arms. There's another woman's smell on you, it's disgusting. Qin Ning had a look of disgust as she waved her hand in front of her nose. Alright, I'll go take a bath now. Mo Chuan also felt uncomfortable being wet, so he left the room with a smile. By the time he came back he had become refreshed. Qin Ning was sitting in front of the table. She had opened the wooden box and was flipping through the blueprints page by page. She was in a daze, not even noticing when Mo Chuan came in. Mo Chuan quietly walked behind her and silently stood there for a while. Qin Ning did not notice anything as she just stared at the blueprints. He felt it was strange and leaned over to look behind her. He saw that the paper was covered in dense diagrams. At first glance, it looked like the 5 crossbow blueprints, but looking closely it wasn't. Ning, what are you looking at? He suddenly asked. Chen Ning was shocked. Turning around to see that it was Emo Chuan, she let out a sigh of relief. She raised the blueprints in her hand and revealed a smile. Didn't you already see it? This is the big present I want to give you. Do you like it? Naturally, I like your gift. Emo Chuan smiled as he took the blueprints from her hand and carefully looked at them. Chen Ning did not say anything. She held her chin and smiled at him. Emo Chuan's calm expression gradually became excited. This blueprint? Where did it come from? Ning, quickly tell me. His usually calm face rarely showed such an excited expression, and the hand that was holding the blueprint was trembling slightly because of the excitement. Chen Ning said with a smile, I drew it, do you believe me? Little girl, don't speak nonsense. This is the blueprint for the 20 crossbows. I believe that even the northern Qi country cannot make this kind of divine weapon. If they can really make it, my West Chu will no longer be afraid of East Qin's iron hooves. We will no longer have to worry about Southern Mountain eyeing our country. Emo Chuan's eyes sparkled with excitement. Seeing Emo Chuan this happy, Chen Ning's heart was also filled with joy. This is something my master worked hard to make. He gave this crossbow a name, the mountain-pushing crossbow, meaning that it has the power to push mountains. Mountain-pushing crossbow. Good name, very imposing. Emo Chuan slammed the table in praise, feeling more pride the more he saw it. Ning, I didn't expect your master to be such a genius. Not only is his medical skill godly, even his weapon-making skills are not inferior to Qi Yenyu's. I rarely admire people in my life, but I really can't help but admire your master. You've acknowledged such a genius as your master, you must seek guidance from him. Chen's eyes lit up and the smile on her face became even deeper. Originally Emo Chuan was very resistant to Gu Qingze, but after hearing that he had taken Gu Qingze as his master, although he didn't say anything, his face was filled with unwillingness. Usually when he addressed Gu Qingze, he would only use the 3 words, Divine Physician Gu, and would never mention your master. Now that he had the blueprint of the mountain-pushing crossbow, his impression of Gu Qingze had actually changed. On the contrary, he approved of Gu Qingze to the extreme and even asked him to properly consult his master. He was even happier than when he obtained the mountain-pushing crossbow blueprint. As he carried her and prepared to leave, Chen Ning suddenly said, Emo Chuan, put away the blueprints. Emo Chuan said. Emo Chuan's heart turned cold. He put down Chen Ning and placed the drawing back into the box. Then he opened the secret compartment under the bookcase and placed the wooden box inside before locking it. He said, Chuan Chen Ning, Chuan Ning Feng. King, Emperor, he King. Chapter 1248. Zhui Feng instantly turned cold as he replied, Emperor can be assured, this subordinate will not take a single step away. Emo Chuan nodded. Although Zhui Feng was a slow person, he was the most dependable person. Anything given to him, he would definitely complete it, never making a mistake. Ning, let's go. After giving his orders, he turned around to pick up Chen Ning. Using his qinggong, he flew in the direction of the Guanyu Palace. When the guards and eunuchs in the palace saw this, their jaws almost fell off in shock. What kind of situation was this? The emperor was actually carrying the empress. He wasn't riding a sedan or a carriage running faster than a horse. What kind of urgent matter had happened? Chen Ning wanted to laugh, but she was also shy. Thinking of what was about to happen, she couldn't help feeling nervous even though she had no experience. Seeing Emo Chuan's impatient appearance and thinking of how he had endured for so long, if he lost control in a bit, her delicate body wouldn't be able to take it. She was suddenly afraid and filled with regret. When they arrived at the Guanyu Palace, Missouri Chuan carried her to the bedroom. Xiaoru was currently cleaning the room, but when she saw the 2 of them come in, she was shocked. Young miss, what's wrong? When she saw Chen Ning being tightly held in Emo Chuan's embrace, her intuition told her that something had happened to Chen Ning. Get out. Emo Chuan didn't want to say another word. In his eyes and heart, there was only Chen Ning. When Xiaoru heard Emo Chuan's stern voice, her face turned white in fright. However, she was worried about Chen Ning, so not only did she not leave, she even took a step closer to Chen Ning. Young miss, are you all right? Chen Ning's face turned red. She shook her head and said, Xiaoru, I'm fine. You can leave first, we have something to say. Little Ru was relieved and left, closing the door behind her. She was a bit unhappy in her heart. In the past, eldest young miss would never hide anything from her, but now, Ever since eldest young Miss married the emperor, she would only speak to the emperor. Even if she wanted to speak, she would have to send her away. Xiao Ru pouted and sat down on the steps. She held her chin as she looked out the palace gates in a daze. She hadn't seen Xiao Si in several days. She couldn't see him in the palace and she couldn't see him in Dr. Zhang's palace. Where did Xiao Si go? Why was the emperor here, but she still couldn't see Xiao Si's shadow? Wasn't he the emperor's personal attendant? Wherever the emperor was, that was where he should be. What she didn't know was that Xiao Si not appearing in the Guan Osprey Palace these past few days was because of Mo Chuan. It was because he could feel Xiao Ru's feelings for Xiao Si that Mo Chuan specifically told Xiao Si not to appear in the Guan Yu Palace. This made Xiao Si confused and his heart filled with panic. Chapter 1249. Her clothes had been undone by Mo Chuan at some unknown time and her clothes were loosened. His fiery hand slid down her collar and down her soft shoulder. Whoa! His hand was placed on her chest and her heart beat even faster. Ping, 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 almost jumping out of her chest. Her mouth was dry and her eyes were intoxicated. Mo Chuan's heart was beating as fast as hers. His body was as tense as a bow waiting to be released. But he desperately endured it, telling himself not to be anxious and not to be rough. Because this was her first time, he had to be gentle. He lifted his head from her lips, took a deep breath and looked down at her. Her cheeks were red like she was drunk and her eyes were like stars with a thin mist. Her eyes were hazy as she looked at him. Her lips were as red as a flower from his kiss. Mo Chuan's eyes moved down from her lips and fell onto her slender and soft neck. Her skin was as fine as porcelain, so white that it almost dripped water. The clothes on her chest were open, revealing a doo-doo, and her heart was beating in his palm. That full feeling made his breathing even more chaotic and he couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. His eyes were green like a hungry wolf, wanting to swallow her whole. Chen Ning shivered under his gaze, but she had nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. She could only lie there and let his wolf-like eyes wander over her body. Her heart was filled with nervousness and shyness. Mo Chuan suddenly lowered his head and his lips fell onto her neck, slowly moving down to kiss her. Her face turned red. Her hands grabbed his head and she gave a low cry. His handsome and elegant eyes were dyed with a thick flame of passion. That faint flame was ignited from his lips on her body inch by inch. Very quickly, it became a prairie fire that was unstoppable. Her clothes suddenly became unnecessary. Their bodies were burning hot. His fingers nimbly moved as he began to take off her clothes piece by piece. After a period of practice, he was no longer the helpless little brat that took off a woman's clothes. Very quickly, her flawless body was like a flower blooming in front of his eyes. He held his breath and stared fixedly at her. He was completely dumbfounded. On the red bed, her black hair was like a black waterfall, making her skin seem even more snow white. Her eyes were tightly closed and her long eyelashes trembled like butterfly wings. Her teeth bit down on her lower lip, revealing her white teeth and red lips. The faint fragrance of a young girl drifted over. That soft skin was like jade, like a pearl. This was the first time he had seen a young girl's body. It was so beautiful that it made him dazzled. This was the first time he had seen a young girl's body. It was so beautiful that it made him dazzled. Chen Ning felt a cold breeze on her skin and she slowly opened her eyes from her drowsiness. She found that Mo Chuan was looking at her body in a daze and her already red face became even hotter. It was also the first time in her life that she had exposed her body in front of a man. It would be a lie to say that she was not nervous or afraid. Although she had read a lot of books about this, they were all textbooks. Now she was facing real guns and live bullets. Because of her nervousness, her skin trembled slightly, like the dew on a flower petal, but it was exceptionally alluring. Chapter 1250. She glared at him with a shy and angry look. When he saw her face that was as red as a begonia flower and how she was biting her lips because of nervousness, his heart filled with joy. It turned out that when his mischievous lass became shy, she would also retract her sharp tongue and become like a shy rose, unwilling to speak. But the more she didn't speak, the more he wanted to tease her. Ning, your body is really beautiful. Compared to your face. It's even prettier. He deliberately spoke in a teasing tone as he reached out to touch her shoulder. The moment his fingers touched her skin, her delicate body involuntarily trembled. Chen Ning heard the smile in his voice and opened her eyes in embarrassment and annoyance. Before she could even say anything, his kiss had already fallen down, landing on her lips and neck. When the two of them were filled with passion and about to explode, there was a large, ping sound coming from the door of the outer palace. It instantly woke up Emo Chuan, who was immersed in his thoughts. His body trembled and his first reaction was to quickly pull the blanket over her, tightly covering her, not revealing a single bit of skin. Hurried footsteps could be heard coming from outside the hall, hurrying towards the inner hall. Emperor, Emperor. The sound of knocking and Xiao Xi's voice came from the bedroom door at the same time. It was filled with nervousness and panic. Xiao Xi, you really are bold. Emo Chuan stood up and his voice was filled with anger that he couldn't suppress. No matter who it was, to be interrupted when the arrow was on the bowstring would definitely fly into a rage. Xiao Xi's body trembled in fear and he knelt down with a plop. Please forgive me, Emperor. This servant knows that I have offended the Emperor and committed a capital crime, but this servant has just received the Empress Dowager's order to summon the Emperor and Empress to the Peaceful Life Palace. I heard that the Empress Dowager is truly angry and said that if the Emperor and Empress dare to not go, she will poison herself after the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn. He said this while kowtowing again and again. His head hit the golden brick floor with a dong-dong sound. After receiving this news, he rushed over in a panic. Even if he was punished by the Emperor, he couldn't care less. What? Hearing Xiao Xi's report, Emo Chuan and Chen Ning looked at each other and revealed a look of understanding in their eyes. Empress Dowager Zhou was actually threatening to kill herself. It was clear that she was very angry. For her to give this order, she must have known what happened in the royal study. She wanted to take revenge for Zhao Rong. Emo Chuan gritted his teeth and wanted to ignore it, but he knew that Empress Dowager Zhou was not just to scare him. His mother had a strong personality, and if he really didn't go to the Peaceful Life Palace, she would do anything. Zhao Rong. All of this was caused by her. She had done this kind of shameless thing, and not only did she not repent, she even had the face to go to Empress Dowager Zhou. The flames of passion in Emo Chuan's heart were replaced by flames of rage. He jumped off the bed and walked over to open the door. Emo Chen. Chen Ning hugged the blanket as she sat up. The shoulder that was exposed outside the blanket was snow white. Seeing this, Emo Chuan's heart skipped a beat and his heart filled with hatred. If it wasn't for that damn Xiao Xi messing things up, she would already be his woman by now. Chapter 1251. Emo Chuan gritted his teeth in hatred. He wished he could grab the Zhao Rong princess and teach her a lesson. Emo Chuan, you. Change your clothes before you go. The blush on Chen Ning's face had not completely disappeared, but she was already quickly putting on her clothes. Emo Chuan finally found that the dragon robe on his body was wrinkled. Anyone with eyes could tell what had happened with a single glance. His face turned slightly hot and he nodded. I'll wait for you outside. After he said this, he opened the door. Xiao Xi was still kneeling on the ground and kowtowing. No need to kowtow, he coldly said. Xiao Xi let out a sigh of relief, like he had been granted amnesty. He looked up and saw that his forehead was already swollen from kowtowing. Help me change, Emo Chuan said again. Yes, Emperor. Xiao Xi quickly helped Emo Chuan change his clothes. Not long after, the door to the inner room opened and Chen Ning appeared at the door with a serious expression. Emo Chuan and Xiao Xi couldn't help looking at her. Although the two of them were already familiar with her beauty, their eyes still lit up. She was wearing a large red embroidered robe. Her hair was like the clouds and she was wearing a 9-phoenix shawl. With a gentle shake, the shawl sparkled. But no matter how bright the light was, it could not take away the brilliance of her entire body. She was slender and elegant, with a dignified posture. Her dress reached the ground and every step she took was like a lotus. It was like a red hibiscus floating on the surface of the water, beautiful beyond compare. Emo Chuan's throat tightened as he stared at her in an aggressive manner. Damn it, she dressed herself up in such a dazzling manner. Was she trying to steal his soul? He had suppressed the fire in his body with great difficulty, but now that he saw her, those flames began to stir again. You're just going to see Mother, not attending a ceremony, so why are you dressed so formally? Emo Chuan noticed that she was wearing the Empress clothes and the shawl on her head was also 9 phoenix heads. Only the Empress had the qualifications to wear it. Chen Ning looked at him and revealed a gentle smile. Such beautiful clothes and jewelry, I'm afraid that if I don't wear them now, I won't have a chance to wear them in the future. Emo Chuan was stunned, but he understood her meaning. His face sunk as he said, You are the West Chu Empress. As long as I'm here, no one can touch you. She smiled and blinked before saying with a serious expression, I was just joking, did you really think it was true? Today is the first time I'm meeting the Empress Dowager, so naturally I have to wear formal clothes to show my respect to the Empress Dowager. Emo Chuan held her hand and looked at her. He said with a serious expression, "I you emo, chuckle, Emo Chuan, emo, Chuan, Chuan." She took the initiative into his embrace tightly and tightly. "Chuan," he said, she see emo and comma, she tightly emo she Chuan." She took the embrace. The two. The tightly emo, shao emo Chuan. Sich emo. Shall see you're back. Suddenly, a surprised and happy voice came from behind him. Xiaoxi was shocked and quickly turned around. He saw a young girl's round face in front of him. Her eyes were dark and bright. It was Xiao Ru. When Emo Chuan heard this, his calm face couldn't help changing color. The peacock gull, the crane's crown red, and the flowered wood turtle were the three great poisons of the present age. Everyone in the world knew that once consumed there was no cure. Because the poison was very strong and took effect very quickly, the imperial palaces had used these three great poisons as poison wine for generations. Qin Ning knew that although this poison was called the peacock gallbladder, it was not actually the gallbladder of a peacock. Rather, it was a poisonous insect that lived in damp places called the striped centipede. It was completely black and had a strong poison. As long as it touched a person's skin, it would cause the flesh to fester. It was very poisonous. Chapter 1254. It seemed like Empress Dowager Zhou was serious this time. If she and Emo Chuan hadn't arrived in time, Empress Dowager Zhou and Su Jin would already be. Emo Chuan. She reminded him in a soft voice as her eyes fell onto Empress Dowager Zhou's left hand. In her hand was the same bottle as Su Jin's. Emo Chuan's eyes narrowed as he also saw the bottle. He walked over to Empress Dowager Zhou without saying a word. "Mother, please give the thing in your hand to your son." Empress Dowager Zhou stood there without moving. Her cold eyes looked at Emo Chuan like she was looking at a stranger. Her eyes made Emo Chuan's heart ache. He had never seen Empress Dowager Zhou look at him with this kind of cold and strange eyes before. There was an incense burner beside Empress Dowager Zhou with a stick of incense burning inside. It was about to burn to the end, with a small spark that seemed to be burning but wasn't burning. This incense was like Empress Dowager Zhou's mood. "Mother." Emo Chuan called out again with a slightly trembling voice. Empress Dowager Zhou coldly looked at him for a while before finally slowly saying, "Very good, you still know to call this widow mother." Emo Chuan looked down and said, "Mother will always be your son's mother." "Is that so? In that case, do you still listen to what I have to say?" Emo Chuan seemed like he knew what Empress Dowager Zhou wanted to say. His lips slightly moved, but he didn't say anything. Empress Dowager Zhou held the bottle in her hand and said in a cold voice, "If it wasn't for this widow wanting to commit suicide by poison, the emperor would not have appeared in this widow's peaceful life palace, right?" "What are you talking about, Imperial Mother?" "Your son and the Empress have already prepared to greet Imperial Mother." Emo Chuan respectfully replied. "Is that so?" Empress Dowager Zhou's eyes kept staring at Emo Chuan, not even looking at Qin Ning from the corner of her eyes. Qin Ning only needed to see Empress Dowager Zhou's expression to know that she was filled with hostility towards her. This was the first time she had appeared in front of Empress Dowager Zhou after her marriage with Emo Chuan. She slowly walked forward and bowed down in front of Empress Dowager Zhou. "This minister's wife greets mother." Her bow was very respectful. From her posture to her movements she was very dignified. Even the pickiest Mother Shangli couldn't find a single mistake. Empress Dowager Zhou gave a snort and finally slowly looked at her. "Empress, your body is much better now? Why are you all dressed up like this? Are you going to a banquet or a celebration?" The sarcasm in her tone could not be any stronger. When she saw Qin Ning she was filled with anger. She felt like she was not pleasing to the eye. Qin Ning slightly lowered her head. Her expression was very respectful, but her tone was not servile. "This minister's wife has come to the Peaceful Life Palace to greet mother." This is the first time this minister's wife has come to the Peaceful Life Palace to greet mother, so this minister's wife has to wear a dignified dress. This is the etiquette this minister's wife should have as the empress. Empress Dowager Zhou was choked. She wanted to use this as a pretext, but she never thought that she would be blocked by Qin Ning with just a single sentence. Moreover, she had said it in a generous manner, not letting a single drop of water leak out. She couldn't find a single mistake. The awkward expression on her face disappeared in a flash, and she immediately resumed her cold and arrogant expression. "The Empress is really arrogant. You've just sat on the Empress throne and you're already using the power of the Empress to lecture people," she said meaningfully. Chapter 1255. The more polite she was, the angrier Empress Dowager Zhou became. She suddenly slapped the table and said in a sharp voice, "Stop pretending in front of this widow, look at what you've done. As the Empress, you actually dare to not admit what you did?" She glared at Qin Ning. Qin Ning said in a gentle voice, "Mother, please calm your anger. This minister's wife really does not understand Mother's meaning. If Mother feels that this minister's wife did something wrong, please point it out. This minister's wife will definitely correct it, but please don't be angry. Mother, have you ever heard of the saying that being angry is using other people's mistakes to punish yourself? If this minister's wife did something wrong, then Mother can scold or hit me, but please don't harm your body because of this minister's wife's mistake, otherwise this minister's wife will be guilty." Her words were spoken in a calm and unperturbed manner. Su Jin stared at her, simply completely convinced. Being able to maintain this kind of calm tone in front of Empress Dowager Zhou's anger, the Empress was the only one. A large portion of Empress Dowager Zhou's anger had unknowingly disappeared. Especially when she heard being angry is using other people's mistakes to punish yourself, her heart skipped a beat and she almost nodded her head in agreement. She calmed herself down and then her anger rose again. "You think that just because you have a sharp tongue, you can talk your way out of this? Don't think you can deny what you did. Alright, since you don't admit that you did something wrong, this widow will clearly tell you. Zhao Rong is a princess personally appointed by the emperor and her father is the first grade Duke Ning of the dynasty who was given the title of crown prince. Even this widow has not hit a single finger on her, so who do you think you are? You actually dare to hit and scold her? Do you know that hitting the princess is the same as hitting the emperor and hitting the royal family's face? Empress, you still won't admit your guilt." Qin Ning thought that it really was for the Princess Zhao Rong. Mo Chuan's face sunk and he said, "Mother, this matter has nothing to do with the Empress. Mother shouldn't listen to Zhao Rong's side of the story." Before he could finish, he was already cut off by Empress Dowager Zhou's cold voice. "Shut up for this widow. This widow still hasn't found you about your matter, it's not your turn to speak right now." Mo Chuan closed his mouth and looked over at Qin Ning, indicating for her to speak in a more tactful manner, not angering Empress Dowager Zhou. Qin Ning slightly looked down like she understood Mo Chuan's meaning. Unhurriedly she said, "I believe that Imperial Mother already knows everything that happened in the Imperial study, right?" Qin Ning said, "Mother is correct, this minister's wife did send people to slap the Princess Zhao Rong. This minister's wife knows her guilt." Qin Ning said, "Mother is right, this minister's wife sent people to slap the Zhao Rong princess. This minister's wife is indeed guilty, this minister's wife knows her crime." Su Jin was shocked that she admitted her guilt so bluntly. When Zhao Rong princess came to the Peaceful Life Palace to complain to Empress Dowager Zhou, she was on the side serving her. She saw that Zhao Rong princess had several red finger marks on both sides of her face. Zhao Rong insisted that the Empress had sent guards to slap her and she was filled with doubt at that time. She thought that the Empress was very dignified and didn't know Zhao Rong, so why would she give the order to slap the princess for no reason? Which guard would be so bold as to really make a move against the princess? Chapter 1257. Empress Dowager Zhou knit her brows and asked, "What do you mean by this?" Qin Ning was thinking that she would go all out. The Zhao Rong princess had come to accuse her first, accusing her in front of Empress Dowager Zhou and splashing dirty water on her, so she might as well return the favor. She took out a small cloth bag and presented it with both hands. "Mother, please take a look at this and you'll understand this minister's wife's meaning." Empress Dowager Zhou gave Su Jin a look. Su Jin picked it up and placed it in front of Empress Dowager Zhou, gently opening it. There were several flying knives inside. The edges were sharp and the cold aura was quite intimidating. The two of them did not understand and looked at Qin Ning. When the princess used these flying knives to attack this minister's wife, the emperor was still unconscious and this minister's wife did not know martial arts. If it wasn't for Zhue Feng arriving in time, this minister's wife would have been killed by the flying knives. Before she finished, Empress Dowager Zhou and Su Jin both took in a cold breath. Empress Dowager Zhou said without even thinking, "Nonsense, that's impossible. There's no such thing." Qin Ning calmly said, "This minister's wife will never accuse a good person. Mother, please carefully look at the handles of these flying knives and you'll know if this minister's wife is telling the truth or not." Hearing this, Empress Dowager Zhou and Su Jin looked at the handles of the flying knives and saw that there was a small rong engraved on the handles. The two of them recognized the Zhao Rong princess handwriting. It was without a doubt Zhao Rong's handwriting. Empress Dowager Zhou was speechless and Su Jin did not doubt her at all. After the Zhao Rong princess returned to the capital city and came to see Empress Dowager Zhou, she had indeed performed her flying knife skills. The size and shape of the flying knives were exactly the same as the ones in front of them. At that time, Empress Dowager Zhou and Su Jin were filled with shock and praise. Hearing Chen Ning's words at this time, even Empress Dowager Zhou's heart was filled with doubt. Could it be that Zhao Rong really dared to rebel and assassinate the Empress? Chen Ning saying this was not wrongly accusing Zhao Rong princess, she was just purposely blurring out the location of the matter, but the truth was the truth. After Zhu Feng intercepted the flying dagger that the princess shot at this minister's wife, the princess was in a fit of anger and said a few unpleasant words, slandering this minister's wife's innocence. Mother has just said that insulting this minister's wife is equivalent to insulting the royal family's dignity, so this minister's wife sent Zhu Feng to teach the princess a small lesson. Now that I've heard mother's teachings, I understand that this minister's wife's actions were indeed wrong. Chapter 1258. Yes. Many thanks, mother. Only then did Chen Ning stand up. She still respectfully stood there. Her every movement was dignified, noble and refined. Even if Empress Dowager Zhou didn't like her, she couldn't find any fault with her, so she could only endure it. Emperor, come here. Mo Chuan was looking at Chen Ning with a look of surprise and admiration. He simply loved her to the extreme. The girl he liked was just this different. It was unknown how many ministers saw Empress Dowager Zhou, but they were like mice seeing a cat. They didn't dare breathe or say a single word. Only this girl was not servile or overbearing. She was calm and steady, taking every step carefully, falling into a trap. She had actually dug a hole and even the experienced Empress Dowager Zhou had unknowingly jumped in. Interesting, this was just too interesting. Although the one suffering was his mother who raised him, he couldn't help siding with Chen Ning in his heart. This was because Empress Dowager Zhou had clearly heard Zhao Rong princess words and was purposely making it hard for Chen Ning. As a son, he couldn't go against his mother. If Empress Dowager Zhou wanted to punish Chen Ning, he would definitely come out to stop her, but this would cause conflict between the mother and son, which would hurt their relationship. Now Chen Ning had used a few short sentences to dispel his mother's thoughts of punishing her. This was truly wonderful. When he heard Empress Dowager Zhou call him, his eyes revealed a smile. He took a step forward and arrived in front of Empress Dowager Zhou. Imperial Mother? Before he could finish his words, with a pa sound, Empress Dowager Zhou raised her hand and gave him a clear slap on the face. With Mo Chuan's martial arts, how could Empress Dowager Zhou hit him? But first, his mind was on Chen Ning, so he didn't have any defenses. Secondly, he saw the angry expression on Empress Dowager Zhou's face, so he didn't dare dodge. Mother, why did you hit your son? Mo Chuan's face was filled with shock and disbelief. Although this slap didn't injure him, his face was burning hot, especially in front of everyone. This was the first time Empress Dowager Zhou had hit him, but he didn't know why he was being hit at all. You unfilial son, look at what you've done. Empress Dowager Zhou looked at Mo Chuan in disappointment and began to violently cough again. Su Jin quickly patted her back while looking at Mo Chuan with her eyes. Then she pointed in the direction of the bedroom. Mo Chuan didn't understand her meaning. His brows were tightly knit as he stared at Empress Dowager Zhou. Mother, what did your son do wrong? He asked in a deep voice. Empress Dowager Zhou stopped coughing and pointed at Mo Chuan. You did such a good thing and you still have the nerve to ask this widow. Say, what are you going to do? Mo Chuan was even more confused. Mother, your son does not understand your meaning. Chen Ning's eyes sparkled as she looked at the room behind Empress Dowager Zhou. Her heart was filled with understanding. She lowered her eyelids and pondered to herself. I have watched Zhao Rong grow up. You and she have been childhood sweethearts since young and have a deep relationship. Chuaner, since you have done such a thing, you must take responsibility for Zhao Rong. She is your cousin. No matter what, you cannot mistreat her. If you dare to play dumb in front of me again, I will give you another big slap on the face. He wanted to use this to shut Empress Dowager Zhou's mouth, but he never thought that after Empress Dowager Zhou heard this, her eyes would light up. Very good. Emperor's words are enough. If this widow doesn't have evidence, she definitely won't force you to take responsibility for Zhao Rong, she said confidently. Mo Chuan's heart was filled with doubt as he asked, Evidence? What evidence? Empress Dowager Zhou did not reply and clapped her hands together. Someone, Go and call the 2 nannies who are checking the princess body over. After a while, 2 white-haired nannies wearing 4th-grade palace robes came in front of Empress Dowager Zhou and bowed down to her. This servant greets the Empress Dowager. When the 2 of them appeared, Chen Ning couldn't help feeling happy. Chapter 1260. Of the 2 maids, one was surnamed Meng and was a 4th-grade ceremonial master. The other was surnamed Jiang and was a 4th-grade official in charge of the palace. When Chen Ning was still in the King Dingyuan Palace, it was these 2 maids that were instructed by Chen Baiyun. They wanted to use this chance to secretly do something to her, but she had seen through them. She never thought that she would see them again in the peaceful life palace. Her lips curled into a cold smile as her eyes looked in the direction of the bedroom. If her guesses weren't wrong, the Zhaorong princess was in that room. She did not say a word and just wanted to see what tricks the Zhaorong princess had up her sleeves. "Have you examined her?" Empress Dowager Zhou asked in a deep voice. Reporting to the Empress Dowager, "These servants have examined her very clearly." The 2 maids replied in unison. "The result?" Empress Dowager Zhou asked again. The people present all held their breaths, so much so that they could hear a pin drop. Everyone's gaze fell on the 2 nannies. Chen Ning felt that it was a bit strange. The Zhaorong princess was too bold. She clearly had nothing to do with Mo Chuan, so why did she agree to let the maids examine her body? Wouldn't she be exposed once she examined her body? Although the Zhaorong princess wasn't that smart, she wouldn't be stupid to this point. She would take the initiative to hand over her weakness. Reporting to the Empress Dowager, the princess She. The one speaking was Mother Meng. She had an awkward look on her face as she stammered, not giving any details. "Quickly speak." Empress Dowager Zhou's heart tightened as she sternly said. "Yes, Empress Dowager. The princess She is indeed no longer a virgin." Mother Meng lowered her head and replied in a small voice. Empress Dowager Zhou nodded. Her expression was very calm, like she already knew this result. She coldly looked at Mo Chuan. "Emperor, what else do you have to say?" Mo Chuan's entire body was stunned. His first reaction was, "Impossible. The 2 examining maids must be lying because this matter was definitely impossible." Chen Ning was also shocked. Her eyes were staring at the 2 maids, watching their every move. That Mother Jiang was not lying, but her expression was a bit strange. What Chen Ning could confirm was that even if these 2 examining maids ate a bear's heart and leopard's guts, they wouldn't dare play tricks in front of Empress Dowager Zhou. So, Zhaorong princess must have already lost her virginity. But how did she lose her virginity? When did she lose her virginity? That was the question. "Mother, no matter if Zhaorong is a virgin or not, this matter has nothing to do with me." After Mo Chuan was shocked, he quickly calmed down. He knew very well whether he had done it or not. Even if he had been unconscious, he would not have done such a thing to Zhaorong while unconscious. Hearing this, Empress Dowager Zhou's body trembled with anger. She wanted to use her dragon head cane to hit Mo Chuan, but she found that the cane had already been thrown to the side. "Ning family law." She shouted sternly, "Today I will teach this unrepentant and immature person a lesson." Mo Chuan proudly stood there without moving. "Even if mother kills your son today, your son will not take responsibility for something I didn't do." "Zhou Chao." Empress Dowager Zhou's body trembled as she pointed at Mo Chuan. "Very good, this widow will beat you to death today, you heartless, disloyal and unfilial thing." She pushed away Su Jin who came to support her. She picked up the dragon head cane and slammed it down at Mo Chuan's shoulder. Chapter 1262. While everyone was looking at him with censure and suspicion, there was only one person who was looking at him with a warm and firm gaze. Emo Chuan looked up and stared right at Qin Ning. He had nothing else to ask for right now. Everyone could not believe him, but she had to believe him. Ning, believe me, I really didn't do it. Of course I believe you. Qin Ning revealed a gentle smile to him. This smile was like the sun, instantly dispelling the haze in Emo Chuan's heart. It made his face glow with light. He walked beside her and tightly held her hand. It's enough for me to hear you say this. Ning, I will never let you down. Hearing this, Empress Dowager Zhou's face turned as dark as the bottom of a pot. Emperor, what do you mean by this? You're not willing to marry Rong, no matter what, right? That's right. Your son has already made a vow that he will never marry again in this life. In your son's heart there is only one person. Emo Chuan looked up and resolutely replied. Very good, then don't blame this widow for not considering the relationship between mother and son. You have to marry Rong, even if you don't want to. If you don't marry Rong, this widow will die in front of you. Empress Dowager Zhou opened her left hand and revealed the bottle with the peacock gall, threatening him with death once again. Emo Chuan's face instantly turned white as he shouted, Mother! Empress Dowager Zhou pulled out the cork and placed the bottle to her lips, coldly looking at Emo Chuan. Emperor, this widow will ask you one last time. Will you marry or not? Emo Chuan's face turned pale and he said through gritted teeth, Mother, why must you force your son to do something he doesn't want to do? If you don't investigate the truth of the matter and your son really follows mother's orders to marry this girl, mother will definitely regret it in the future. Empress Dowager Zhou did not move and said with an expressionless face, Will you marry or not? Emo Chuan tightly gritted his teeth and his eyes seemed like they were about to spit out flames. The atmosphere on the scene became solemn. Everyone was stunned by Empress Dowager Zhou's actions. Su Jin was the first to react and shouted, Empress Dowager, don't. She wanted to steal the bottle from Empress Dowager Zhou's hand, but Empress Dowager Zhou coldly looked at her and she did not dare make a move. Zhao Rong Junju had already walked to the door. Seeing this, she turned around and cried out with tears in her eyes, Empress Dowager, if you do this for Ronger will not be able to atone for his sins even if he dies 100 times. Cousin doesn't want to marry me, so I won't marry him. Empress Dowager, nothing must happen to you. If I really have to die, the one who should die the most is me. Chapter 1263. Emo Chuan's chin tightened. He had thought that this matter would be easily explained, but he never would have thought that the words of the two nurses would push him into an irrecoverable situation. How could he explain it? If I didn't do it, then I didn't do it. Does the person who made Zhao Rong not look perfect have to be me? Why can't it be someone else? Mother, why would you rather believe someone else's words and not your son's? When Empress Dowager Zhou heard this, her body began to tremble with anger. She suddenly turned around and glared at Emo Chuan. Emperor, are you even speaking like a human? You. How did this widow give birth to a beast without a conscience like you? Zhao Rong Princess cried even louder. Her throat was blocked as she looked up with tears in her eyes. Cousin Rong, is not a shameless girl, I only have you in my heart. My body is clean. Other than you, I have never been touched by a man. If the person in the royal study wasn't you, Rong would never. Since cousin doesn't believe Rong is willing to die to prove my innocence. Empress Dowager, let me go, let me die. She struggled to hit the stone again. Empress Dowager Zhou tightly hugged her and said while crying, Rong, you're not allowed to do anything stupid. This widow will take charge of this matter and will definitely give you justice. The two maids also held onto the Zhao Rong princess and tried to persuade her. This play was very exciting and lively. Qin Ning never thought that the Zhao Rong princess would not be a brainless fool. Her framing was very clever, making it hard for Emo Chuan to defend himself. However, if she wanted to act in front of her, the Zhao Rong princess was still a bit immature. Not a single trace of her could escape Qin Ning's eyes. Empress Dowager Zhou comforted Zhao Rong. Holding the bottle, she turned to look at Emo Chuan. Emperor, you're still not willing to marry her? Very good, then collect this widow's corpse. She suddenly raised her hand and poured the poison in the bottle into her mouth. Mother, don't. Emo Chuan flew forward and took the bottle from Empress Dowager Zhou's hands. His back was covered in a cold sweat. Empress Dowager Zhou let him take the bottle. Standing there, she said with a cold smile, If this widow wants to die, can you stop me? If you don't marry Zhao Rong, this widow will die in front of you. Mo Chuan knew that Empress Dowager Zhou had a resolute personality and wouldn't go back on her words. Since she said this, she was determined to marry Zhao Rong Princess. His heart felt like it was frying oil, and his too thick and straight eyebrows furrowed into a lock. If he didn't marry Zhao Rong, mother would kill herself. Zhao Rong? Zhao Rong? Zhao Rong. He had never been in such a dilemma in his life. Chen said. Chuan. Zhao. Mo. Chapter 1264. The Zhao Rong princess cries became smaller. She looked up from the two maids' embrace and carefully looked over Qin Ning. Empress Dowager Zhou said in a doubtful voice, Empress, are you saying this from the bottom of your heart? This minister's wife is absolutely sincere. Mother, this minister's wife is also a woman, so I know how important a woman's purity is. If she loses her purity and the man who took it is not willing to take responsibility, then this kind of man should be struck by lightning from the heavens and be despised by everyone. Mo Chuan's face couldn't help turning dark as he angrily glared at Qin Ning. He couldn't understand. She had just said that she believed in him, so how could she stand on the same side as someone else in the blink of an eye? Empress Dowager Zhou revealed a look of joy. She had been 100 times unhappy with Qin Ning, but now she felt that her words were very pleasant to hear. Her tense face instantly softened. The Empress really is a person who understands the big picture. Since you agree with the Emperor marrying Zhao Rong, then you should properly advise the Emperor. Don't let him be a heartless person. Qin Ning nodded and said, this minister's wife will properly advise the Emperor. However, this minister's wife has a few things to ask the two maids who are examining the princess body. After all, this matter concerns the princess' pure reputation and happiness, so it's better to ask them clearly. The hearts of the two maids couldn't help tightening. The Zhao Rong princess looked down and continued to sob. She secretly pinched the back of the two maids' hands, but no one noticed. Empress Dowager Zhou agreed with Qin Ning's opinion for the first time and said, the Empress' words are reasonable. If you have something to say, then ask it. Qin Ning slowly walked forward and walked beside the Zhao Rong princess. In a gentle voice she said, Princess, the Empress Dowager will take care of this matter for you, so you don't need to be this sad. If the Emperor dares to let you down, not to mention the Empress Dowager not agreeing, even this princess will not agree. The Zhao Rong princess thought in her heart, you're this good? You clearly want to be a good person in front of the Empress Dowager, who knows what kind of scheme you have in your stomach? Her nostrils flared and she almost wanted to curse out loud. But in front of Empress Dowager Zhou, she had no choice but to pretend to be sad. She covered her face and sobbed, ignoring Qin Ning's words. But Qin Ning was too lazy to bother with her. Her goal was not the Zhao Rong princess at all. Nanny Jiang and Nanny Meng, we've met before. How are the two of you? You're still as healthy as ever and you look even more spirited. She had a smile on her face as she greeted the two maids. Her current status was no longer the same as before. She was now the head of the 6 palaces, the empress that was above tens of thousands of people. She was no longer the princess that was bullied by everyone in the King Dingyuan palace. Mother Meng and Mother Jiang changed their arrogant manner in front of her and hurriedly got up to salute her. Mother Meng, Jiang and Meng, there's no need for the two nannies to be overly courteous. Ben Gong knows that you're old nannies in the palace and even the Empress Dowager trusts you. However, Ben Gong still wants to ask in detail. Did the two nannies just examine the princess' body? Chapter 1265. At that time, Qin Ning's words were sharp and she was intelligent, leaving a deep impression on the two of them. Now that they were facing Qin Ning, their hearts were filled with vigilance. Reporting to the Empress, that's right. The two of them respectfully replied. Then this princess wants to ask the two maids, what method did you use to examine the princess' body? Did you use the chastity mark? Or did you use the old method of the two maids? To take off her clothes? Qin Ning calmly asked. The Zhao Rong princess' face instantly turned red. She secretly clenched her fists and her nails dug into her palms. How could the two maids not hear the sarcasm in Qin Ning's words? However, the two of them had been in the palace for a long time and their skin was thicker than the city walls. There was nothing strange on their faces and they still had respectful expressions. Mother Meng carefully replied, this matter is related to the princess' innocence, so for the sake of security, we used the method of taking off her clothes. I wonder which nanny checked it? Or did the two maids do it together? This? The two maids couldn't help looking at each other before replying, it was done by the two maids. May I ask how long the two maids have been in charge of etiquette and etiquette? Qin Ning suddenly asked a completely unrelated question. Mother Meng replied, This servant has been in charge for 24 years. Mother Jiang said, this servant has been in charge for 22 years. Then there must be quite a few girls that have been examined by the two maids. The two maids must have a lot of experience. No wonder you have been in this position for so many years. Qin Ning smiled as she praised the two of them. We don't dare accept the Empress' praise. I also want to ask the two maids, if a girl is not a virgin, does that mean she has just lost her chastity or has lost it a long time ago? With the two maids' experience you should be able to tell, right? The hearts of the two maids turned cold at the same time as they replied, of course. The Zhaorong princess secretly gritted her teeth. The corner of her eyes revealed a look of deep hatred and pride as she looked at Qin Ning. She had thought of such a flawless plan. Did that fox spirit empress think she could find her weakness with just a few words? Don't even think about it. According to the results of the two nannies' examination, did the princess just lose her virginity? Qin Ning raised her voice and directly asked this question. The Zhaorong princess never would have thought that the most secret matter of a girl like her would be discussed by Qin Ning in front of everyone. Her face instantly turned red and she wished she could find a hole to hide in. She did not even have the courage to look at Mo Chuan. Empress Dowager Zhou and Su Jin also felt a bit awkward, but Qin Ning's words were very natural, like this was a very natural question. Meng Meng teeth and said, Mozim, oh very well, then I will ask the two nannies one last question. Qin Ning's words made the two maids let out a sigh of relief. Qin Ning's questions had come one after another and each one was sharper than the last, making their hearts jump into their throats. Was Her Highness's chastity ruined by a man or by the fingers of the two nannies? Nannies, please tell me the truth about this question. Chapter 1266. Qin Ning's words were like a bomb falling into the crowd, causing everyone to be stunned by the explosion. Empress Dowager Zhou said with a shocked expression, You? What did you say? Although Su Jin did not say anything, her eyes couldn't help looking over at the Zhaorong princess. The Meng and Jiang maids' bodies slightly trembled as they lowered their heads without making a sound. The Zhaorong princess' face was as white as paper. She suddenly looked up with tears in her eyes and said while crying, Empress, how can you say this kind of thing? You personally saw the scene at the time. You saw the emperor favoring Rong-er, so you became angry out of shame. You ordered people to beat Rong-er and then kicked Rong-er out of the palace. Do you want to cover up the truth like this? Rong-er wholeheartedly admires the emperor and Rong-er doesn't care about status, but Rong-er's innocence cannot be slandered like this. Empress Dowager, please help Rong-er. She fell to the ground crying. She was out of breath and almost fainted. Empress Dowager Zhou saw this and her heart clenched. She couldn't help slamming her dragon head cane down and sternly saying to Qin Ning, Empress, please pay attention to your words. Is this girl's innocence something that you can casually slander? You don't want the emperor to marry someone else, so you think of this kind of malicious method to humiliate Rong-er. Are you worthy of being the empress? This widow feels that you should give up your position as soon as possible. Her words were already very serious, not giving Qin Ning any face at all. The surrounding people could hear this. Although the Zhaorong princess was crying loudly, her heart was filled with pride. The Meng and Jiang maids let out a sigh of relief. With the Empress Dowager supporting the princess, what did a little empress count for? As long as the Empress Dowager said a single word, you would roll down from your high throne and turn from a phoenix to a chicken. Mo Chuan took a step forward and said in a cold voice, Mother Ninger's empress position was personally conferred by this one in front of the imperial temple. The ancestors and ministers were all present. It is not something you can remove just because you want to. Empress Dowager Zhou's body trembled with anger. She pointed at Mo Chuan and said, Good, very good. Emperor, you're actually going against this widow for a woman. You really are worthy of all the effort this widow has put in for you and all the training I've done for you. Mo Chuan still wanted to say something, but Qin Ning grabbed his hand and gently pinched it. She gave him a look, telling him not to say anything else. Your Majesty, you can't disobey Imperial Mother. Quickly apologize to Imperial Mother. Mo Chuan didn't understand what she meant, but he knew that his words were too much, making Empress Dowager Zhou sad, so he softened his tone. Mother, I don't mean to contradict you. I just want to ask you to calm down for a while and let Ning-er finish her question. Nanny Meng, Nanny Jiang, answer the Empress's question. His voice was cold and stern, and the two nannies shivered at the same time. Replying to your Majesty, how would we dare to have the guts to ruin the princess's innocence? Nanny Jiang said in a trembling voice. Then your meaning is that her innocence was destroyed by this one? Mo Chuan's eyes were like cold lightning as he looked over at Mother Jiang. Mother Jiang lowered her head. Her back was cold and she did not dare look up. Granny Meng didn't even dare to breathe loudly. She buried her head low. Mother Meng, please extend your right hand. Qin Ning suddenly said. That Mother Meng's body trembled and she placed her right hand into her sleeve. Chapter 1267. Empress Dowager, the Empress is questioning Rong-er's innocence like this. How will Rong-er have the face to see people in the future? You have to help Rong-er. The Zhao Rong princess suddenly knelt down beside Empress Dowager Zhou while crying. She knelt down at her feet and loudly cried out. Empress Dowager Zhou patted her back and angrily glared at Qin Ning. This matter ends here, no one is allowed to say another word. Someone, immediately send the two maids out of the palace. Her words clearly did not want to make this matter bigger. After all, this matter was related to the Zhao Rong princess' reputation. Mother Meng let out a sigh of relief and her heart that was in her throat fell to the ground. Qin Ning took a step forward and stood in front of Mother Meng. She said in a cold voice, Mother Meng, are you still not willing to tell the truth? Empress Dowager Zhou angrily shouted. Mother, the truth is about to be revealed. Does Mother not want to know the truth? Don't you want to know who the person who really ruined the princess's chastity is? It wasn't anyone else, it was this Mother Meng in front of us. She suddenly reached out and pulled Mother Meng's right hand out of her sleeve, raising it high up. Imperial Mother, please take a look. It was Senior Nurse Meng's 2 fingers that destroyed Her Highness' chastity. The bloodstains on her fingers are clear evidence. She said in a loud and clear voice. Mother Meng was caught off guard and was completely stunned by Qin Ning's actions. When she came back to her senses, she saw that everyone's eyes were on her right hand. She panicked and wanted to pull her hand back. But Qin Ning was firmly holding her wrist and she couldn't pull it back at all. Everyone could clearly see that Senior Nurse Meng's index and middle fingers were indeed stained with blood. The blood stains under her nails were especially deep. Empress Dowager, there really is blood. Su Jin couldn't help covering her lips as she cried out. Empress Dowager Zhou's face was as cold as water. She had been in the palace for several decades and had experienced all kinds of storms and events. She had seen things like body examination maids secretly playing tricks in the palace a long time ago. But she never would have thought that Mother Meng would be this bold, daring to do this to the Zhao Rong princess. Mengxi, did you really do this? Empress Dowager Zhou coldly stared at Mother Meng. The cold light in her eyes was almost tangible, making Mother Meng feel like she had fallen into an ice cave. No, no, no. It's not this servant, it's not this servant. She was in a panic as she shook her head. Then where did the blood on your fingers come from? Empress Dowager Zhou asked. This. Senior servant Meng's eyes darted around as she answered. Your Highness was injured when you lost your virginity. When I was examining your body, I accidentally got some blood on it. Empress Dowager Zhou Kuden Dowager Zhou heard this and felt helpless because there was nothing. One had to know that a woman's innocence was the hardest thing to prove. There would never be any evidence. Qin Ning gave a cold laugh and said, according to Mother Meng's meaning, the princess did not lose her virginity in that room, but rather in the royal study? Since Nanny Meng's hands are stained with blood, Her Highness must have lost quite a lot of blood when she lost her virginity. That blood must have flowed onto the mattress. Very good, I can immediately send someone to retrieve the mattress from the imperial study to check if there are any bloodstains on it. Now, why don't we first check if there are any bloodstains on the mattress that the 2 nannies examined Her Highness' body just now. Chapter 1268. No need to check. This servant confesses. She said in a weak voice. The Zhao Rong princess' face turned whiter than snow as she stared right at Mother Meng. Although Senior Nurse Meng didn't look up, she couldn't help but shiver. Speak. Why did you do this to the princess? Empress Dowager Zhou shouted in a sharp voice as she slammed her dragon head cane into the ground. This servant. Mother Meng said in a trembling voice. This servant was too nervous at the time and was not careful. I used too much strength, I never thought that I would hurt the princess. This servant deserves to die, it was all this servant's fault. I asked the Empress Dowager for forgiveness. She kneeled on the ground and kept kowtowing. Hearing Mother Meng's words, the Zhao Rong princess immediately looked away. She looked down and let out a sigh of relief. Qin Ning revealed a faint cold smile. This Mother Meng really had received quite a bit of benefits from the Zhao Rong princess, actually putting all the blame on herself. But wanting to get away with this, was it that easy? Mother Meng, you said that you accidentally made a mistake and it wasn't intentional, right? Chen Ning lowered her head to look at Mother Meng. Yes, yes. The Empress Dowager is wise, this servant really didn't mean it. Mother Meng knocked her head against the ground. Chen Ning's voice suddenly raised a bit. Since you didn't mean it, then why didn't the princess punish you on the spot after being hurt like this? Why did you insist that the person who made her lose her innocence was not you, but rather the emperor? As soon as her voice fell, Mother Meng's body froze. Her mouth was wide open, unable to say a word. The Zhaorong princess' face turned livid. She tightly bit her lower lip, almost to the point of bleeding. Chen Ning's words were just too powerful. Even Empress Dowager Zhou couldn't protect her even if she wanted to. Empress Dowager Zhou did not dismiss the surrounding eunuchs and maids because she wanted to use everyone to force Mo Chuan to marry Zhao Rong. But she never would have thought that the truth would be like this. She was now well aware that the Zhao Rong princess' innocence was destroyed by Mother Meng herself. Then she wanted to use this chance to push this matter onto Mo Chuan, making it hard for him to defend himself. This kind of scheme and this kind of ruthless methods, even Empress Dowager Zhou, who had been in the harem for many years, was shocked. Zhao Rong was cruel to herself to this extent. She even destroyed her chastity in order to achieve her goal. This was simply too terrifying. After Chen Ning said this, she silently retreated to the side. She knew that no one present was stupid. Everyone understood the meaning behind her words, so it was best to stop while she was ahead. Mo Chuan immediately grabbed her hand and tightly gripped it. His eyes were burning with passion as he stared at her, not even blinking. There had never been a moment where he felt his blood boil because of her. She had actually used just a few words to prove his innocence. She had exposed Zhao Rong princess's treachery in front of everyone, and Empress Dowager Zhou had no reason to force him to marry Zhao Rong princess. The air seemed to freeze and no one made a sound. Everyone's eyes fell onto the Zhao Rong princess. Their eyes were filled with disdain, condemnation, disdain, and contempt. A dignified princess, in order to marry the emperor, she had actually bribed a body examination nurse and personally destroyed her innocence. Chapter 1269. After a long time, Empress Dowager Zhou finally leaned on her cane and walked step by step towards the Zhao Rong princess. She walked very slowly, like she was using a lot of strength with each step. Su Jin wanted to go up to support her, but she was pushed away by her. She stood beside the Zhao Rong princess, looking down at her from above. The Zhao Rong princess was lying on the ground, not daring to look up at all, just sobbing. Zhao Rong, do you have anything else you want to say? Empress Dowager Zhou slowly spoke. Her voice was very calm, without a trace of anger in it. The Zhao Rong princess bitterly cried, Empress Dowager Rong has been wronged. Someone must have bribed that nurse, that's why she secretly harmed Rong I asked the Empress Dowager to help Rong find the person who harmed Rong and give Rong justice. Empress Dowager Zhou's lips slightly curled up, revealing a mocking smile. This widow has always wanted to uphold justice for you, standing up for you with all my heart. Rong you have truly disappointed this widow. The Zhao Rong princess cried and said, Empress Dowager Rong has really been harmed by someone. That nurse Ming's heart is evil. Using the fact that she was examining Rong body, she actually destroyed Rong innocence. But what can Rong do? Having lost her innocence, Rong wouldn't be able to clear her name even if she jumped into the river. She could only bite the bullet and swallow this bitter fruit. The only way Rong could think of was to hide this matter and then marry her cousin. Otherwise, Rong wouldn't be able to be a human in the future. Woo. She lay at Empress Dowager Zhou's feet, grabbing onto Empress Dowager Zhou's skirt, speaking while crying. Empress Dowager Zhou's eyes were cold, feeling extremely disappointed in her. But when she heard the Zhao Rong princess say, never be a human again, her heart suddenly skipped a beat. Thinking of her dead little sister, she couldn't help feeling pity for her. She gave a low sigh, not saying a word. But the Zhao Rong princess was too familiar with her. Hearing her sigh, she immediately knew that Empress Dowager Zhou's heart had softened. She immediately seized the opportunity and hugged Empress Dowager Zhou's leg. She raised her tearful face and said, Empress Dowager Rong is not a frivolous person. Before today Rong was definitely innocent. If I could marry my cousin, Rong would follow my duties and would not do anything that would shame the royal family, but Rong innocence has been destroyed by someone. Rong would do. What do you want Rong to do? If Rong of Rong and doesn't want cousin, then Rong would die. Rong said, You Bai Qian. You're so young, why are you talking about death? Su Jin helped the princess into her room to rest. Zhao Dowager said, Chen.